What is going on, everybody? Taylor here, and today we are doing a bracket show.
Yep.
We are back with a bracket show, and I'm super excited about this. We are doing billion-dollar club films that have grossed over $1 billion.
Yep.
And it's quite a club.
It is. There are 46 films inside this club, and it is going to be quite interesting to do this, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But it's not us just alone doing this. We are also joined by the one and only Maxwell Hadad. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Good, bright and early morning over there in Australia, if my timing calculator is correct.
It is very much a bright and early morning, and
it's very much a morning where we went, it's time to get out of bed because we're going live in 10 minutes. So.
It's Sunday, and getting up early on a Sunday is not fun. But we're also joined by the one and only Evan DeGraff. How are you?
I live in the state of Florida, so that answer changes every single day. Sometimes I'm like, it is nice outside, and I'm content with the salty air and everything else. But other days I walk outside and I see no one wearing masks in fucking Publix, the best grocery store of all time. But I'm just like, I'm gonna catch COVID at some point, and I'm like trying to be funny about it, obviously, but like sometimes it's a little fearful, so we're okay. But I love big blockbusters. It's the thing that I'm actually like halfway decent at, so we'll see.
All right, and we are also joined by Pat Hogue, the filmmaker. Pat, how are you?
I'm so glad you didn't introduce me as the one and only, because there is another Pat Hogue who lives in Georgia who was arrested for selling meth and heroin and LSD. So I don't want us to be getting facts wrong on this show. But
that is.
I mean, the facts are already wrong on this show because Pat has turned into Evan on our freaking thumbnail, and things are already going haywire.
So unfortunately, PJ Campbell could not join us. He is taking a bit of a personal day.
Which, you know what? After how much this week has kicked my ass, I don't blame him for taking a personal day. That's completely fine.
So we're very
Saturday, right?
Yeah.
We're very thankful that Evan DeGraff could join us for this $1 billion bracket. Well, let's kick it off. So the way this is going to work is, unfortunately, there is not an even 32 billion films to make this nice, simple, and easy. So, which would have been amazing. So, however, there are 46, and 46 does manage to help us be able to do a wildcard bracket. So, what we're going to do is a wildcard bracket of 16 films. The top two, so the ultimate two films that make it to the end on this wild card will make it into the actual 32 bracket. So that's why you're going to see films on here that are not, that you're going to hear about films. We're going to go through this entire bracket, and there's going to be 32 missing or 30 missing $1 billion films. That's why, because we're just doing the wild card to begin with. So,
all right, let's kick it off
with our first one. We have Iron Man 3 versus Transformers Age of Extinction. Maxwell, I'm going to move to you. Where are you going first?
This is an easy one for me. I think Iron Man 3 is darn good, and I think Age of Extinction is very politely not. So let's go with Shane Black's Iron Man 3.
Taylor, where are you going?
I am also going to go with Iron Man 3. Transformers is really not my jam a lot of the time. There's only a couple Transformers movies that I'll go to bat for, so it's not going to be this one.
All right. And Pat, where are you going?
I know I'm known for my hot takes, but those aren't going to come in yet. Yeah, Iron Man 3. The fact that Age of Extinction has made over $1 billion is the first problem with this list.
Only 2014 film to do it. So, Evan, where are you going?
I just want to shout out John Schnepp for having the best rant about this movie ever.
Yes.
Transformers Age of Extinction. Rest in peace, John Schnepp. But it's going to be Iron Man 3 because it's Iron Man 3. It has some really great scenes in it.
All right, our first 5-0 knockout.
We're starting out on a really good place, and it's not going to stay that way. We're all agreeing very well.
So Iron Man 3 takes the cake. We move on to our next one, which is the Alice in Wonderland live action versus the Lion King.
Great.
Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, thank you so much. You know how much the live action Alice in Wonderland personally wounds me as an Alice in Wonderland mega fan. But then the Lion King just shows up and does nothing. So like, what's the bigger sin at this point? You know, how do I like? You're gonna make me vote for Lion King. God.
I'm gonna go a different track. At least Alice in Wonderland does something different. And that's kind of where I'm going to go. At least Alice in Wonderland does something different. So I'm going to go with Alice in Wonderland.
That's fair. Elizabeth is saying, how did Alice make $1 billion? That's a fair question.
Evan, where are you at?
I'm going to go with the Lion King live action. Actually, I think the soundtrack of it is absolutely awesome. I love hearing Beyonce's voice and Gambino's voice on it. I think it brings a new levity and a different perspective on an already told property. Granted, while the story is beat for beat, I think hearing those different voices is really important. So I'm going to go with the Lion King.
Okay. Pat, where are you going?
Taylor, I think you put it perfectly of like, Alice in Wonderland offends me, whereas Lion King, I literally forget that movie exists on a day-to-day. And I'm going to go with Jacob's reasoning. It's like, at least I get an emotional response out of Alice in Wonderland, even if it's blinding rage. I'm going to vote Alice in Wonderland.
All right, Max, you got the deciding vote. Where are you going?
See, I can moderately tolerate Alice in Wonderland. I think the score is pretty good and it has some nice colors. And the Lion King remake might as well have murdered my family. So, going with Tim Burton on this one just a little bit. Sorry.
All right. Alice in Wonderland live action, it gets through. I mean, let's be real. It wasn't going up against the strongest of competition. So, all right, let's move on. We have our next one: Jurassic World versus Despicable Me 3. Pat, I haven't started with you. Where are we going?
I haven't seen Despicable Me 3, and like I've seen Minions and I've seen the first Despicable Me, so it's just that franchise doesn't sit with me in any way. So I can't judge this movie on its quality. Jurassic World, as kind of generic and as weird as it is, it's still a dinosaur movie with fun action sequences, so I'll go with that.
All right, Evan, I'm going to shift to you next.
I'm already upset. Like, believe it or not, I like the Despicable Me franchise a boatload. But
Evan, get ready.
I can't go against the Jimmy Buffett cameo in Jurassic World. So it's Jurassic World.
Okay. Taylor, I'm going to move to you.
Yeah. I've seen the first 2 Despicable Me movies, and I do actually like them. For someone who freaking like hates what they did with the spin-offs and makes me want to die. I don't mind the first 2 movies, but I do actually like Jurassic World for what it is. So we're going to go with Jurassic World.
All right. And Max, where are you heading?
Yeah, I genuinely like Jurassic World, so I'm going with that one. If it had been up against the first Despicable Me, it might have been a little more of a competition because I think the first Despicable Me is solid, but the sequels got increasingly annoying the more they relied on the Minions. In my mind, sorry if that's offensive to anyone like my wife, who I know loves the Minions, who's in the chat. So sorry, wife.
She went with
Wow.
So, I mean,
Instant
I think you're all right.
We're not just upsetting people on the stream today. We're upsetting everybody.
That's how this show operates.
Yep.
We work
I'm excited.
together.
I'm excited for a battle between 2 movies where one of them doesn't make us want to question whether living is worth it. It seems like everyone has had one.
I like Jurassic World. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
It's fun.
Yeah,
and Giacchino did a great job following in John Williams' footsteps. That score is great. I have it on vinyl. I listen to it a lot.
Thank you, Max.
Definitely. I'm definitely going Jurassic World. I, again, also have a lot of fun with Jurassic World. I think Jurassic World is just a fun movie. While it doesn't live up to Jurassic Park, I think it's the best of the sequels we've gotten so far. So I'm definitely going to Jurassic World.
We have Fairs agreeing with Evan saying Jurassic World just because of Buffett. So
that is very fair. All right. Next, we have Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace versus
that's actually
Aquaman. I think this is our first real good matchup. So I'm going to start this one. I am going to vote for Aquaman. As I'm one of the few ones who thinks that Phantom Menace is the best of the prequels. And I do thoroughly enjoy Phantom Menace. Unlike a lot of other people, Aquaman is just dumb fun action and is a lot of fun, and I can just absolutely enjoy it. So I'm going to go with Aquaman. Evan, I'm going to move to you.
I am stuck between a rock and a hard place because I think Aquaman's really campy and it's a little long, which you could say the same about the Phantom Menace. A little campy and a little long. I would rather vote for Star Wars than the DCEU, for as bad as that sounds. Aquaman isn't a terrible movie. I also don't like the Phantom Menace that much. I'm gonna go the Phantom Menace, but like,
all right, okay, Phantom Menace makes it through. Max, I'm gonna go to you.
One movie has Jason Momoa shirtless, which I thoroughly enjoy, and one movie has Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul set to John Williams' Duel of the Fates. So I'm going Duel of the Fates. And choosing Phantom Menace. It's a tough choice.
Taylor, I'm going to move to you.
Oh, gosh. It is a tough choice because I actually had no idea what to expect out of Aquaman. And I remember leaving and being really, really excited about it. You had enjoyed it enough, but I was really excited about just how much fun it had and it knew exactly what it wanted to be. And it was just crazy. But the prequel movies have always meant a lot to me because I did see all of them in theaters as a kid. Like, those were my childhood movies. And even as I've gotten older, I find a lot to appreciate about them. And Max is right. How can you not vote for Duel of the Fates? Like, that's blasphemy to me.
Fair enough. All right, Hogue, where are you going?
I feel like this one is a really good indication for why this is actually like a pretty good bracket category, because these films obviously like had a touchstone in pop culture, like having made $1 billion. But I really thought Aquaman was a lot of fun. It's that perfect Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel that you want from those characters. But yeah, like Phantom Menace and those prequels stick in your craw and like are still culturally relevant in a way that very few movies get to be. And I'll be the third repeater. Yeah, Duel of the Fates it's an iconic movie moment. Star Wars.
All right. We have our next one, which is the Aladdin live action versus the Minion spin-off.
Gosh almighty.
Max, I'm going to start with you.
Boy. Despite what I said earlier, I'm still going Minions because it was fine, and I really did not like the Aladdin remake. I thought they made so many misguided choices.
Interesting. Okay. Taylor, I'm going to go to you.
But I'm pretty sure there's very few things on this earth that annoy me less than the Minions. And I think live action Aladdin made some choices that I appreciated. And at least did a couple of things a little bit different. So we're going to go with Aladdin just because Minions, like, if they didn't exist in their own sphere outside of Despicable Me, I would love them. But they have kind of just taken over like a cancerous fucking thing, and I can't do it. So we're not doing that.
For what it's worth, I do like the ride.
Fair enough. Evan, where are you going?
I actually forget about Minions. I remember seeing it and I remember nearly falling asleep during it. It's just like one of those movies that you just kind of sit on. It's like background noise, where Aladdin has some really nice moments in it. Especially like I think Will Smith's Genie was an interesting spin and very different from what Robin Williams was. And on just some of the moments with Naomi Watts was amazing. So I'm going to go with the live action Aladdin.
You mean Naomi Scott?
Sorry, I'm not a trivia guy.
I am also going to go with Aladdin. I think Aladdin is just at least it tries something. It tries to put an original spin on an iconic classic. At least it attempts. Whereas in Minions is just 90 minutes of just Minion speak and just doesn't work for me at all. And I don't find it overtly funny, especially as someone who I actually really enjoyed Despicable Me too. So I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Aladdin. So, Hogue, where are you going?
I actually had the pleasure of meeting Naomi Scott a few years ago, and she was literally one of the nicest people I've ever met. That being said, Minions, because I did not even see Aladdin because I could not motivate myself to go see it, and it is something to be said about it. It's not going to move on, but the illumination. I don't know what voodoo or versions they're sacrificing at their studio, but they just like got some sort of magic right to hit pop culture in a way that has literally infested all of us. So I would go with Minions.
All right, so Aladdin does make it through. So let's go to our next one. We have Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides versus The Fate of the Furious. Hogue, I'm going to go to you.
I think they're both the worst in their franchise.
Interesting.
I'll go. This is ew. Just because Charlize Theron's kind of awesome all around, I'll go with The Fate of the Furious. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I got for this one, folks.
Evan, where are you heading?
One is like, we're going to take whatever source material that we had, we're just going to twist it and make it make no sense. All the other one was like boom, boom, pow, pow, fast cars, weird soundtrack that sounds actually really good. It's going to be Fate of the Furious for me.
All right, Taylor?
Sure, we'll go Fate of the Furious. I mean, I don't feel particularly strongly about either of these choices. Neither of them really draw a reaction out of me at all. So I'm going to give in to the peer pressure of the chat, and we're going to say Fate of the Furious.
I'm also going to go Fate of the Furious. I really, really do not like On Stranger Tides. It's the one film, I think, in the franchise that really just completely misses the mark and doesn't understand its audience and doesn't understand what type of movie they're making. Whereas in Fate of the Furious, while I have a lot of problems with that film, it at least understands its audience and at least understands what type of film they're making. So I'm going to go with Fate of the Furious.
All right,
Max, where are we heading?
Yeah, On Stranger Tides is the only Pirates movie I don't like, and Fate of the Furious, while being one of the lesser fasts for me, is still fun. I mean, it has like an ice missile that gets pushed out of the way, and Charlize Theron in arguably culturally appropriating hairstyles. Fate of the Furious it is.
All right. Let's move on.
That's funny.
To the next one. Oh, this one's going to be fun. This isn't going to cause any sort of debate at all.
Oh, no.
Star Wars Rise of Skywalker versus Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
God.
I don't see a debate, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't either.
Happens.
All right, Max, where are you heading?
I think Fallen Kingdom is much better than it gets credit for. I think it's a really smart and fun piece of gothic horror with dinosaurs. So yeah, Fallen Kingdom, easy for me.
I'm going to go Fallen Kingdom as well. I think I can have fun with Fallen Kingdom. There is a lot about Fallen Kingdom that at least works for me. Whereas the less said about Rise of Skywalker, the better.
Fair.
Yeah, I really don't feel like talking about Rise of Skywalker right now.
I've had enough of that for a lifetime, and the movie only came out however many friggin' months ago. I left Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom really stoked on the movie, and then heard everybody else hated it and went, well, I'm never going to talk about this again. So we're going to go with Fallen Kingdom.
My people.
Evan, where are you heading?
Take a shot every time Finn yells Ray. I'm going to go Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Dead by 30 minutes.
And Hogue, you going to make it a 5-0 sweep?
I love Star Wars. I love Jurassic Park. I haven't seen Fallen Kingdom, and I'm still gonna vote for it. Also, J.A. Bayona.
That's fair. And I can
you should watch it, because some of what J.A. Bayona does is really, really cool.
Yeah, the directing's much better than the writing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
for sure.
I would completely agree with that. All right. Last one for the first round of the wildcards. We have Transformers Dark of the Moon versus Avengers Age of Ultron.
Ugh.
All right, Taylor, where are we going?
Freaking easy. Age of Ultron. Let's go.
I have a lot of issues with Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron has not particularly held up very well, but my God, at least it's competent. I'm going with Age of Ultron, which is funny because I actually think Dark of the Moon is the best of the Transformers movies outside of Bumblebee, obviously, but it's still a badly made film. So I'm going to go with Age of Ultron. Evan.
I've got no strings to hold you down.
Evan, we're copyrighted. That was
I
pitch
love it.
perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thoroughly appreciate it. It's Age of Ultron. I think
Guys,
that
I don't
movie-
have any freaking like whiskey or anything in this orange juice. Okay, so let's.
Taylor, you knew what you were getting into.
I know it's a rough time, but I would hope you're not drinking whiskey at 9 a.m. That's all.
Max, where are you heading?
I mean, only one of them has James Spader's sexy voice, so we're going Age of
yes.
Ultron.
All right, and Hogue, let's make this a 5-0 wipeout.
I think Age of Ultron is one of the most underrated MCU movies. Yeah, Age of Ultron.
Okay.
All right.
I just want to reiterate that an MCU movie knocked out both Transformers billion-dollar films. So I just find that fascinating. All right, we're on to our next round. We have Alice in Wonderland live action versus Iron Man 3. Evan, where are you heading?
Shane Black, baby. Iron Man 3.
Okay. Taylor, where are you heading?
Yeah, Iron Man 3. Like, I think I've said enough about how Alice in Wonderland live action just offends me on a personal level. And if you haven't heard enough of it, we did a 10 years on episode where I talk about how Alice in Wonderland just fucking destroys me. So go find that
Yeah,
out.
because that movie's 10 years old.
Yes.
Hogue, where are you heading?
Iron Man 3.
Evan? Oh, I've already asked. Sorry. Max.
Yeah, it's Iron Man 3. Easy.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Iron Man 3. All right, we have our next one, which is a tough one. Jurassic World versus Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Huh.
Hogue, I'm going to go to you first.
I'm going to use the same argument last time. I think Phantom Menace sticks in the pop culture in a way that very few movies do. And I don't know, there's like an important factor to that. Jurassic World, fun in a lot of ways. Jimmy Buffett, yeah. But Duel of Fates, that's a good ace up your sleeve to have as a movie. So I'll go with Star Wars.
Okay. I am going to go Jurassic World. I have a lot of fun with Jurassic World. I think it's not a great movie, but it's a lot of fun. And I can put that on and just kind of sit in it and enjoy it and have fun with it. And whereas in The Phantom Menace is more of one of those, okay, I'm enjoying this, but it's not as enjoyable for me as Jurassic World, which is much more of I can turn my brain off movie. Taylor, where are you going?
Yeah, I have fun with Jurassic World, but I am gonna go with Phantom Menace. I don't know. I think that movie has so much to offer us that people still talk about when it comes to the prequels. And I think it has a lot to offer that people don't talk about enough. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay. So, Phantom Menace. Evan, where are you going?
Wasting away again in Jurassic World.
Nailed it.
Well done. Max, you have the deciding vote.
I am gonna go with the dinosaurs.
Wow. Okay. Jurassic World makes it through to the next round. All right.
What do we got?
Next have the live action Aladdin versus the Fate of the Furious.
Can we just master cut combine that into one movie? I think we should do that.
I would actually love to see Vin Diesel saying "You've got a friend in me" while racing Paul Walker. That'd be awesome.
You've got a family in me.
Oh, wow.
There's some videos on YouTube of Vin Diesel singing Rihanna, and it's not half bad. He has a pretty good voice. Very deep register, obviously, but he can carry a tune, surprisingly.
Interesting. Okay.
I may have to look into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max, where are you heading first?
Fate of the Furious.
Okay. And Hogue?
As goofy as it is, I feel like it has a bit more soul. Fate of the Furious.
Okay. And Evan?
I remember more of the Aladdin live action than the Fate of the Furious for good reason. It's the live action.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. Taylor?
Yeah, I'm also gonna have to go with Aladdin. Fate of the Furious is not my favorite Fast franchise movie by any stretch, and I enjoyed Aladdin a lot more than I thought I was going to. I walked into it going, "This is going to be a train wreck," and walked out and went, "Well, that could have been a lot more of a train wreck." And there were some things I actually really enjoyed, so I'm going to go with Aladdin.
You
All
haven't
right.
wanting to give it another spin.
Like a wheel?
No, just get
am
interrupted.
I'm about to knock out Fate of the Furious because I think Aladdin is a more fun movie. I could watch Aladdin more than I could Fate of the Furious, mostly because of the time, because of how long Fate of the Furious is, and just takes it as it's not the same type of movies anymore. And I'm not a massive fan of The Rock, so yeah, I can.
What?
Oh, those are fighting words. Goodness.
Yeah.
Ooh, here
All
we go.
right. Last one of round 2, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron versus Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. All right, Evan, where do you want to go?
Age of Ultron takes advantage of the fact that it can have a commentary on technology and AI, especially at the time the film was released. So I'm gonna go with Age of Ultron for actually like trying to be more than just a superhero movie.
Okay. Hogue.
Haven't seen Fallen Kingdom. I saw clips of it on a plane and it looked pretty cool. Ideology, gothic horror sounds cool to me, but just an idea, yeah, like what Evan said. Age of Ultron's doing a lot of weird stuff, and it doesn't work a lot of the time, but when it does, it's fascinating. Age of Ultron.
Okay. Taylor.
This one's tough for me because both films have some problems, definitely. But I have fun with both of them for very different reasons. Fallen Kingdom went somewhere that I wasn't expecting it to go, and Age of Ultron really does dive deep into some of those AI things that I wasn't really expecting either. Gosh, I don't know what to do with this one, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with. We're gonna go with Age of Ultron for this one.
All right,
Yeah.
Max, where are you at?
Yeah, this is kind of tough for me too, because I think there are two films that have really interesting ideas and are also really messy. But I think I'm going Age of Ultron because there are moments in it that I think are really lovely and I enjoy a lot, despite the whole being not as good as some other MCU movies.
Yeah. I'm kind of also going to go with Age of Ultron. I think it is, while it is a little bit of a mess of a film, it is at least, I think it just is a little bit better in terms of how big of a mess it is, like in terms of the story that it tells. And so I'm going to go Age of Ultron. All right, so we are down to our final in the wild card. So the winner of this first matchup will go on to the first bracket, and the other one will be knocked out. So let's go. Jurassic World versus Iron Man 3. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks.
Good at that.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable.
This is another kind of tough one because not many people really talk about Iron Man 3. And some of the things that it does and explores. And I think there's a lot of good in that movie. Jurassic World was definitely a fun way to kind of reboot or continue whatever you want to call it, the Jurassic Park franchise. But yeah, this one's tough because Jurassic World has a lot of fun to offer. And Iron Man 3 is a lot more like, you want to be depressed? We got you. Yeah, I'm going to go with Jurassic World.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go to Evan. Where are you heading?
I saw Jurassic World with my little cousin, and he absolutely loved it. I think he was like 8 at the time. I feel like if I showed him Iron Man 3 at the same time, he wouldn't have bought into it as much. And granted, I know they're both PG-13 and they're for different audiences, but I think to watch someone like have that same type of imagination as I would maybe watching Jurassic Park with my dad growing up, I'm gonna have to go with Jurassic World for that reason.
All right, and Max, where are you heading?
This is the toughest one for me so far, because I do think Iron Man 3 does a really nice job within the confines of superhero context exploring PTSD, and I also think it's really clever. But I did see Jurassic World in theaters 5 times because I just thought it was so much fun. So I'm going Jurassic World, and I know that might be unpopular because it gets a lot of hate, but I like it quite a bit. So
yeah, I'm also going to go Jurassic World. I have a lot of fun with Jurassic World. It's just a fun, awesome movie for me. So it's got problems and it's very derivative of Jurassic Park, but I at least have fun with it. So whereas in Iron Man 3, I know it's trying to do something different, and I'm one of the people, I do like the twist. Like, I do think the twist works, and I think it does help the film. I just think ultimately one of the problems with it is the villain that the film does give you is very underwhelming. So I think that is something against it. So I'm going to go Jurassic World. All right, Pat.
Guys, I think Iron Man 3 is a top 5 Marvel movie.
That's on brand.
Because I agree that like it has all of kind of the deep talks about PTSD, really getting into kind of that real life correlation between Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, and like really overcoming demons in a way. But it also has a final fight scene where 1,000 Iron Man robots fight some like glowing explodey dudes, and Guy Pearce is a bit more of the generic villain, yeah. But in comparison to the rest of the MCU, I don't think Iron Man 3 gets enough credit for how much that it fits into it, has that character arc for Tony Stark, does kind of all the servicey stuff that you need to be when you're a Marvel movie, but also has this individualistic Shane Black kind of buddy cop movie. But whereas Jurassic World, I think it's fun. It's a fun movie. Dinosaurs are always cool, but does feel a bit more just kind of copying what the original archetype for what those like Spielbergian kind of monster movies are. Whereas Iron Man 3 feels like the next evolution, like talking about tech, talking about kind of like modern conspiracies. And I don't know, that's a movie that I think Marvel would never make again, and still works as a Marvel movie. And I think it's Robert Downey Jr.'s best performance. Yeah, I would have gone with Iron Man 3 in a heartbeat. I'm disappointed, my folks.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Jurassic World does make it through. So let's move on to the other one that will make it through, that will go into bracket number 2. We have the Aladdin live action versus Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm going to go to Hogue. Where are you starting?
Age of Ultron, one. I haven't seen Aladdin, but it falls. So take my opinion with a grain of salt, but there's just a different kind of Disney representation I want here, and I want more of the unique vision that makes $1 billion than kind of we did what you wanted and you got what you needed, like for just this property. So like just to kind of fight for the uniqueness, I would say Age of Ultron.
I'm also going to go with Age of Ultron. I think like while I do have issues with it, I do have issues with Aladdin, and Aladdin is fun. At least Age of Ultron is, I think, a necessary stepping stone in where the MCU had to go. So I'm going to go with Age of Ultron. Max, where are you heading?
I almost wish these two had been reversed, this bracket and the one we did before, but I am going Age of Ultron. Like I said, I really didn't like Aladdin, but I enjoy Age of Ultron.
Okay. Taylor?
Yeah, I am also going to go with Age of Ultron. As much fun as I did have with Aladdin, and ended up actually liking a lot of the choices they made, Age of Ultron is kind of that movie that sits in an interesting place in the MCU where people don't really talk about it as much for what it did in terms of stepping stones of where the MCU did end up going. And I do actually like a lot of the choices that they made in that movie and just kind of how weird it gets. So I'm going to go with that one.
All right. So Age of Ultron.
Who hasn't?
Sorry, Evan, you haven't voted. Sorry.
I was going to go Age of Ultron anyways. Well, I'm going to explain further later.
All right. So Age of Ultron makes it through. We have our 32
we got
bracket.
There. All right.
We have the bracket.
That was just the prologue, folks.
Hasn't even started.
Prologue. We're half an hour into a prologue.
I mean, it's still going faster than the freaking Disney one that we did, where
Yes,
we had to do
that's
Wildcard for Disney.
That is true.
Thank God I wasn't on that one.
All right, let's begin with the official bracket. We have The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King versus Jurassic World. So Evan, I'm going to start with you.
All this effort for Jurassic World, only to go up against the Return of the King.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking run. For that, I'm gonna go Jurassic World just to see, like, if I can throw some monkey wrench in there.
You know,
I'm out here-
Jurassic World had a valiant run, but it's Return of the King.
We did all this effort for me to not because I didn't want to pick two movies.
Yeah, and it's just not going to matter because
not
it's
gonna
Return of
matter.
the King.
It's going up against Return of the King.
Unless you guys are also going to throw in a monkey wrench and
yeah.
vote for Jurassic World, but
Max, where are you heading?
I mean, the Lord of the Rings are some of my all-time favorites. It's Return of the King. Sorry, Jurassic World. I still love you. I still will watch you, but Frodo fucking Baggins, y'all. Here's my
Taylor,
language. You curse on your channel. I'm sorry.
no,
you
you're
definitely
fine.
can curse.
I already said my piece.
That's
so.
okay. Hogue.
I have famously, in the small group on the PJ Campbell show, have not seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've seen the theatrical version of Fellowship, but I've already voted for movies I haven't seen. Just kind of, I even through cultural osmosis, it just seeing scenes. Yeah, Return of the King. Like, I'm not going to be like that Evan guy. That's like, you know.
It's definitely Return of the King. Return of the King is a touchstone in landmark cinema. Like, it's such a landmark of cinema that you can't vote against it. As fun as Jurassic World is, yeah.
Even if Iron Man 3 made it through, I would have voted for Return of the King just because of how important it is.
Okay, let's move on. We have our next one. Captain America Civil War versus The Dark Knight Rises. Max, I'm going to move to you first.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see this because it's dark, but that's a Dark Knight Rises poster right there, so that's what I'm voting for.
Interesting. Okay. Taylor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Civil War. I'm gonna leave it. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Pat, where are you heading?
I'm in The Dark Knight Rises. I'm in the football scene that Bane blows up. It is such a cultural touchstone movie in my heart. I'm going with Civil War.
Interesting. Okay. Evan, where are you heading?
I'm gonna go with Civil War. I think the film is absolutely brilliant. One of the best paced movies I think I've seen. It doesn't stop, but for good reason. I think everything the MCU was leading up to went to Civil War, and also Spider-Man officially being in the MCU the first time was such like. So it was so magnificent for me to see because I finally got to see one of my favorite characters of all time on screen with all the other heroes I began to fall in love with.
All right. Civil War. I am also going to vote for Civil War. Civil War is one of my favorite MCU films, so I am going to go for that. Whereas in The Dark Knight Rises, I think starts well but ends fairly poorly. So it has issues with the third act. So I'm going to go Civil War.
It's very cold on this island all by myself.
When Dark Knight comes around, Max, I'll speak up more for you.
All right. Well, we have a one that is a little bit cold.
God.
Zootopia versus Frozen.
Ooh.
Taylor, where are you going to start? I haven't gone to you starting in a while, so I need to.
It looks like
Yeah.
Guys, why? So famously, I'm not super fond of Frozen, but Frozen 2 really got me excited about the possibilities of what could happen in that world. I really like the story they chose to tell in the second movie. So it thawed my frozen heart over the first movie.
Yeah.
And Zootopia, I really enjoyed a lot. I had a lot of fun with that movie. I remember being really excited after leaving that movie. And I think it's hard because I don't think Frozen 2 has the best ending. I don't think it lands the ending as well, just because it kind of abruptly ends. And Zootopia, I don't really remember having too many issues with, but Frozen 2 gave us the boy band ballad that we all needed in our lives. So I'm going with Frozen.
In the woods.
All right, and Hogue, where are you heading?
This is a tough one. The first commentary I participated in was Frozen 2, and I am not a fan of the first Frozen.
You cried.
Like, I cried in Frozen 2. It really won me over in a way that I wasn't expecting, and it kind of has the Age of Ultron problem of it's a bit sloppy, but a lot of the ideas are really cool, and there's a lot of like great moments. So Zootopia is kind of a weird, perfect object of just it does what it's doing with really charming characters in a fun, inventive world. That's about it. It's fun. You enjoy it while you're watching it, but I've never really thought about it past that. Whereas Frozen 2, I'm kind of like, I would see a third one now. So I'm going to go with Frozen 2 just because I think it's just more of an interesting movie.
Okay. Evan.
I hate this so much. Like, actually, so much. This is easily the hardest one I've done so far because it is very well known. Animation is my favorite medium. And I think both of these films do very interesting things with the medium, especially how they're able to tell their stories. I will say this. I thought it did a very good job handling the idea of racism and prejudice. Zootopia, sorry. However, our good friend RB3 did not think so. And I feel like I have to take that into account. And it's a film I need to rewatch and actually like re-understand again. But also Frozen 2 has the same issue that I think a lot of other films do that are like these big blockbuster films that are trying to do something else where the pacing is just off for a general audience. It's a very weird place because I love both of these movies. I think Frozen 2 is absolutely brilliant, and I think Zootopia is too. The only way I'm going to vote is because one has a J.K. Simmons cameo, and it's going to be Zootopia for that reason.
All right.
I didn't know where that was going to end. I love that's where that ended.
Max, where are you heading?
As opposed to Pat and Taylor, I did quite love the first Frozen, and I also thought the second one was even better. It like did this thing with like deep fantasy mythology that I thought was really beautiful. So I'm going Frozen 2. Plus, yes, Lost in the Woods is an all-time bop. Like I listen to it all the time. May or may not be videos of me singing it in the bathroom that may or may not be released depending on how this goes. Yeah, Frozen 2.
I am actually going to go with Zootopia. I know it doesn't mean anything at this point, but I am one of the few people who I adore the first Frozen film. I think Frozen 1 is an absolute Disney classic. And I was kind of meh on Frozen 2. Frozen 2 just didn't quite land with me the way that I wanted it to, and
it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah,
We've only seen it once, so
yeah.
there's time for you to rewrite your opinion.
So I'm going to go Zootopia, but it doesn't mean anything.
Just go into the chat real quick. PJ Campbell showed up to tell us that he loves us.
Yes,
so.
No, but he's here. He's sitting right.
We do love you, PJ. He's not on it because he just wanted some personal time today, which is completely fair and understandable. All right. Oh, let's get ready to burn the comment section to the ground.
Great. Here we go.
We have
why no
Dead Man's Chest.
So I'm just gonna vote right away because this is technically my channel, and I'm just gonna burn it to the ground right away. There is nothing in the world that could ever get me to vote for Joker, so we're not doing that.
Except Sex and the City 2.
Nope, still not. Still not voting for it.
Evan, where are you heading?
Okay, one appeals to an audience that no film should appeal to. Sorry, I know I said it on stream and that was a lot. However, the other is a 2.5 hour schlock fest, which is everything I want out of a Pirates movie. It is fucking insane in all the right ways. And yes, it is sloppy as hell, and it might be a little too long. I give no fucks because that is, I think that might be Johnny Depp in his prime. It's Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest.
Oh, Hogue, where are you going?
Joker.
Interesting.
That's all he says. For good reason.
Max, where are you heading?
I think Dead Man's Chest is a joy. I love how Gore Verbinski's mind work. The cross-cutting of the action in the third act on the island with the wheel and everything is the type of like $250 million cinematic madness I love, and Joker is awful. So it's clearly Dead Man's Chest.
I am of the very strong. I'm of the opinion that I actually do enjoy Joker. I think Joker is a good, well-made film. I enjoy it. I think it has a lot of problems, but I still enjoy it. Dead Man's Chest is my. It's the best sequel. I will say that much, because I love the first one so much. But it is so close to the first one to me that I am going to go Dead Man's Chest. I think it's just so much fun, and I enjoy the absolute hell out of it.
Guys, no offense to the chat, but we took out the trash right away, so that's out of the bracket.
Unlike Gotham City and Joker, that trash is just building up.
Chest also has one of my favorite modern cliffhangers.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. I love that cliffhanger. All right, this one's actually okay. So we got through one that could burn the chat down. This one's going to be mean to the panel.
Great.
Avengers: Infinity War versus Captain Marvel. Hogue, I'm going to start with you.
It's not even mean. This does kind of come down like to a construction sort of thing. Captain Marvel is good. It's a solid like kind of entry film to introducing this character, but it does feel like it's kind of hitting the beats in a lot of ways. It's weirdly one of the few Marvel movies where I feel like the grasp of what kind of like character they're going for isn't officially like kind of cemented. Or is it Infinity War is like, it's a miracle that movie even works as a movie. Like the fact that they, when the first Avengers came out, it was like 6 characters. There's no way you can balance that. Infinity War is like hold my beer sort of thing. Like and Captain Marvel I had a lot of fun with. I haven't had the urge to go back and see it again as much as I love Brie Larson, Sam Jackson, Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg, I should say, Ben Mendelsohn. It did its job. It was a movie that I enjoyed, but Infinity War is something different. I'm going to go with Infinity War.
All right. Evan, where are you heading?
I am upset that you're making me vote against Brie Larson. She doesn't deserve this. But it is so hard to ignore that opening of Infinity War, and hard to ignore that, like, we knew theoretically what could happen in the next movie, but one of the most heartbreaking scenes, I think, in comic book history, when we literally see Peter Parker dust away. And there are still memes about it to this day, but those memes are because we were also upset about it. And all the performances in that movie are fantastic. So I'm going to go Infinity War, but that's like no schlock at what Captain Marvel was able to do.
And Max, where are you heading?
Yeah, I really like Captain Marvel. I saw it a bunch of times in theaters. I think Brie Larson is great, but to me it's kind of like a TV pilot where you think they do a nice job setting up, but you're almost more excited for where that world and those characters are going to go later on. Whereas I thought Infinity War was like a beautiful culmination of everything the MCU had worked up till that point. And to Hogue's point, does a really, really solid job balancing so many characters. So I'm going Infinity War.
All right. Taylor?
I'm actually not ever going to forgive you for seeding it like this. I'm just saying that right now. So I hope you know what you stepped into with that one. Because no one's going to appreciate Captain Marvel the way it deserves to be treated against Infinity War. Like, it's never going to happen, no matter who you talk to, except for me in this chat. So I hope you're ready to live with the consequences of doing seeding like that.
How warm is your couch, Jacob?
Because Captain Marvel meant so much to women who love Marvel, who never got that chance. All the times we were promised we were going to get a Black Widow movie and didn't get one, and none of the women superheroes got their own movies. And then we got Captain Marvel, who refused to smile unless she wanted to smile, who had men telling her to smile and be cute and do the things that all of us hear every single day, and just like, oh, she wasn't emotional enough because she didn't flirt with the guys and she didn't smile. And she, like, that was what male audiences who went to this movie for the most part said. She wasn't emotional enough. She wasn't what we wanted out of a female superhero. And the women who went to it, I remember sitting in the theater after that movie just sobbing because it's everything that I had hoped we were going to get and never thought that we would get on screen. And I thought Brie did a great job, and I thought it was a really powerful story of her friendship with her friend and with her friend's daughter. And I thought that the way that she dealt with what everyone was telling her was the threat, and she had been brainwashed to deal with her whole life, was not that, and she was able to approach it with compassion. and with forgiveness and with an open mind. And it's something that I think a lot of audiences overlook and maybe don't understand. And I'm mad at you. So that's my spiel.
Okay. That's fair. I can understand that.
So now you must live with that.
I will live with that. All right. Infinity War makes it.
Oh, and Abby agrees with me. So
Yes, Abby does.
all of you can leave.
Abby agrees with you. All right. Well, let's get you back on the train. And you can. We have Star Wars: The Last Jedi versus Titanic.
So if Last Jedi gets knocked out for fucking Titanic after Captain Marvel just got knocked out, I swear to God, I'm gonna walk out of the stream.
Okay.
I'm just telling you right now.
Fair enough.
So have fun with that.
Evan.
Titanic's literally about to run into an iceberg called The Last Jedi. It's The Last Jedi.
I started this stream when I was doing this bracket because I am very adamant that I will not change the seating. And I was like, oh, I really love Titanic. And then I saw what it went up against and I went, can't change the seating and I'm not voting for Titanic. So yeah, Last Jedi, because Last Jedi is just a freaking incredible film. Hogue, where are you going?
Anyone who tuned into the commentary last night knows how much I love The Last Jedi. Knows how much I can talk about The Last Jedi. I think this one's a lot tougher. That I think Titanic gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I'm gonna go with The Last Jedi just for the sake of it made me care about something I never cared about before in Star Wars. Whereas Titanic, I think, is just kind of a perfect romantic blockbuster in a way that people are kind of like worried to like call it that. I don't know, like there's such like an old-fashionedness to Titanic that I think it's so willing to be open-hearted and warm and inviting. But I really can't do what I did last night and not go with Last Jedi. So Last Jedi.
All right. And Max, where are you heading?
Okay, so Last Jedi has made it through, right?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, and I think The Last Jedi is a masterpiece, I am going to vote for Titanic because when I was 10 years old and I saw Titanic like 15 times in theaters, it had my heart in a way that few films had before. And for what it's worth, Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie was a big part of my coming to understand my sexual identity. That is not a knock on Last Jedi at all. Like I said, I think it's incredible, but just because of what Titanic means to me personally, I'm voting for that, knowing that Last Jedi has already made it through.
All
and
right.
You're okay with that, Taylor, because I do not want to upset you in any way, shape, or form.
No, I can allow that, but only from you. Literally only you.
All right. Let's move on to the one.
I don't even get to talk about it?
Yeah, you. Oh, sorry. Okay, yes. You may talk about
Jeez, the disrespect in this room today, honestly.
I know.
Feel the
Yeah,
ice
sure.
all the way from Brisbane. Gosh.
Yes, you may talk about The Last Jedi.
Thank you so much for your permission to talk about The Last Jedi. First, I want to talk about Titanic because I do think there is a discussion to be had here. Titanic was the first movie that I remember watching on 2 separate VHS tapes as a kid because I had the set of the 2 VHS tapes that came in because you couldn't freaking fit it on one. And as a kid, that was the VHS tape that I watched the most, which might explain a lot about who I am now. I don't know what that means, but that was what I went to as a kid, where I would just play that movie over and over and over again. And it's probably where I get like my overly romantic side. That's probably what it comes from. Last Jedi, I guess, is going to have to be the beacon that Captain Marvel could not be, in terms of it's another movie that a lot of women I talk to see as their favorite Star Wars movie for what it does with its female characters, for the feminine lens that it tells its story through that we don't get to see a lot, especially in big blockbuster movies. It's a story that really focuses on Rey and her choices and her story based on her rather than the characters around her and what they need. And I think that it's really sad that we're probably not going to get a blockbuster like this again, just because it still just infuriates people to the point where it's hard to even talk about with people that you know. And so that's kind of where I'm going to leave that. I, once again, wish that it wasn't seated this way because Titanic probably means more to me than most of the blockbusters on this list, just because it's, other than the 3 Star Wars original VHS tapes, it's the only other movie that I really remember putting on as a kid of my own choice, where I kind of rotated between those two. So this one is a tough one for me, but I mean, it's just kind of culturally where we are right now. My vote has to go for The Last Jedi.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We have Black Panther versus Rogue One.
No.
Story.
No.
Now it's Evan's turn to have a meltdown.
Hogue, where are you going?
Black Panther, easy.
Max?
Yeah, Black Panther, easy for me too.
Taylor?
Rogue One. Easy.
Evan?
As much as I love Black Panther, Rogue One.
Evan, where are you going?
I don't know.
Actually, I'm going to be meaner to you. Actually, no, I'm not. No.
Do it. Be mean.
No,
Be mean.
No, I'm not. Evan, I need you to pick your vote.
Okay, here's my issue. Rogue One is my favorite Disney Star Wars film. I think Rogue One is really well told. It is shot beautifully. I think every single piece of dialogue has so much importance to it, especially to the character work in that film. But also, Black Panther, when it came out, is a cultural wave. Everybody saw that movie. Everybody and their fucking mama went over and went to go see Black Panther. Also, that soundtrack is probably one of the best soundtracks that have ever came out. But like,
it's also a really good movie too, Evan.
I'm getting there. Thank you. Ryan Coogler directed a masterpiece with some great actors and actresses. And I'm gonna go Black Panther, but I don't want to shit on Rogue One. Like, Rogue One is there and it is beautiful. It is like a holy sanction that I like to go watch and just enjoy myself in because it's so goddamn good.
I'm also going to go Black Panther. I'm fairly notorious that I think that, I'm not the biggest fan of Rogue One, and I think Black Panther is a damn near masterpiece. So I am going to go with Black Panther. All right, let's move on to a nice easy one for all of us. Beauty and the Beast versus Toy Story 3. And this is the live action Beauty and the Beast. So nice, easy one for all of us, I think. Taylor?
You already know where my vote goes. I think Beauty and the Beast is a disaster live action. Like, I think they completely miscast that role. And I just think that it's just not enjoyable to me. Like, there's so much more they could have done with it. And as much as I love Emma, I just don't think that it was the way they should have gone. And if they were going to go that way, they should have cast a singer to do the songs.
All right. I'm also going Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 is an absolute incredible and amazing film, whereas in Beauty and the Beast, I enjoy it, but I'm not a massive fan of it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Toy Story 3. Pat?
I was so excited for Beauty and the Beast and was probably it's the most disappointed I've ever been coming out of a movie in recent years. Toy Story 3. Easy.
And Max?
Although I'm more okay with the live-action Beauty and the Beast than a lot of the other more recent Disney live-action remakes, it's still quite soundly Toy Story 3, which is an all-time great animated film, all-time great film. Especially, I feel like, for people of our generation who grew up with the movies, what this was able to accomplish and what it was able to tap into on an emotional level was pretty astounding.
All right. And Evan?
I actually thoroughly enjoyed the live action Beauty and the Beast. I think it is beautiful. I think the music is absolutely whimsical. And I think it does a really good job putting you back into that world that you remember so well. However, Toy Story 3 is arguably one of the best animated films of all time. And it is and it's what's ironic is it's not even my favorite Toy Story film. But it is so hard to not acknowledge the impact that it had just on animation in general because it was such a landmark on it. But it's Toy Story 3. I don't want to vote against live action Beauty and the Beast, but it's Toy Story 3.
All right. And Toy Story 3 makes it through. All right. We are down to our next bracket. We have The Dark Knight versus Avengers Age of Ultron. All right, Hogue, where are you going?
This will be my chance to give Dark Knight Rises like a little bit credit because I think Christopher Nolan makes movies that are totemic in a way that most blockbusters aren't nowadays, and Dark Knight Rises has the iconography, has all that kind of stuff. But what Dark Knight has over it, I think, is such a core ideology, has such a core kind of very daring way to present these characters in pop culture in a way that we really didn't see before on, especially in film. Avengers Age of Ultron, I think, deals with big ideas, is trying to do a lot, but is, as we've all kind of admitted, it's kind of messy about it. Whereas Dark Knight really feels kind of like the blockbuster of the generation. It really feels like it kind of just set the precedent for what these films could be. It's got flaws, but it also has Heath Ledger's Joker. And that's kind of one of the most esoteric and important performances we've seen in a film of this size kind of ever. The Dark Knight, I think, is so severely underappreciated nowadays by a lot of people for like what it did and kind of what it still stands for. Dark Knight. That's
all right. And Taylor?
Yeah, it's The Dark Knight. That movie is just it's lasted beyond in its cultural impact, and it's hard to really compare it to something like Age of Ultron, because as much as we've all kind of talked about the merits that Age of Ultron has for the MCU, it's easily the Dark Knight.
All right, Max?
Yeah, The Dark Knight. I don't have much to add at this point.
Evan?
I think it's only harder for me because I never got the chance to see The Dark Knight in theaters. Seeing Age of Ultron in theaters for me was actually a really big deal. It was the first, I think, Marvel film I saw in theaters. I have.
How young are you?
I feel so old. When he just said I never got the chance to see The Dark Knight in theaters, like, I feel so old.
Not to make funny, I just
gonna go calm my head down really quick and just get that ready.
You would have been what, 7 or 8 when The Dark Knight came out?
9, I think. Well, no, because it came out, so probably 8, like about to turn 9. I have some issues with The Dark Knight. I think I have an issue with just Nolan's directorial style as it is. I think his movies are shot very bluntly, which I think is his whole purpose and point, but I don't know if I really vibe with that idea. But it's so hard to ignore Heath Ledger's Joker, but I also don't want to like throw shade at like James Spader. I think this is probably Joss Whedon's best film, which could say a lot depending on what you think about his filmography. But I'm gonna go The Dark Knight, but it's no like shot at Age of Ultron because that movie is incredible.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go to The Dark Knight. It is, again, a landmark film. It's the one that, and it's funny that like you look back now on what movie from 2008 had the biggest impact on Hollywood, and it's probably Iron Man more than The Dark Knight. But at the time, The Dark Knight changed movies and how blockbuster movies were made by studios. And yeah, I'm definitely going to go with The Dark Knight. All right, next up, we have Incredibles 2 versus Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I'm going to start this one off. It's Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I have issues with Incredibles 2, whereas in Force Awakens, it's just a blast from start to finish, and it sets up exactly what it wants to be. It does exactly what it wants to do, and I love it from start to finish, and it is one of my favorite Star Wars films, so I'm going to go with Force Awakens. Max?
Yeah, it's Force Awakens. I have a BB-8 tattoo. I don't have an Edna Mode tattoo.
Wait, Max, come on. Not on your shin. I'd pull it up and show you, but it's wrong with it.
Taylor?
Yeah, I was excited to get an Incredibles 2 just because of what the first Incredibles movie did for animation. In terms of storytelling, it was such a fantastic world to get lost in with what they created there. The second movie, I've had no desire to really rewatch since we saw it in theaters. It had some fun moments, but overall, it just wasn't. It didn't really do anything to make me go, yeah, this was a great second edition that I'm really glad we got, and I want to watch it all the time. The Force Awakens, even though it does kind of do a lot of beat for beat retelling of story moments to some extent, I think that it does a great job in reintroducing you to Star Wars. or introducing younger audiences to Star Wars if maybe this is their first experience with it, and really just giving us a good place to kick off from going forward. So I think it has to be The Force Awakens.
All right. Max. Pat.
I'm not the biggest fan of Incredibles 2. I think it has its merits. I think it's a lot of fun in a lot of ways, but the movie that shall not be named ever on this channel, I think has shaded a lot of kind of opinions about Force Awakens. We all love The Last Jedi, or at least have great appreciation for it, but I do think a lot of that legwork went into introducing us to these characters in Force Awakens. Like, we immediately fell in love with Rey, Poe, and Finn, and just it hit the beats, but it hit the beats in a way that, and Kylo Ren, and you know, it reminded people what Star Wars was meant to be in a world where that's all we wanted. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And as we've seen before, people who try to do that, it can go spectacularly wrong. I think this is an example where it went right. So Force Awakens.
All right, Evan, tell us why we're all idiots for not picking Incredibles 2.
I love The Incredibles 2. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think to flip the script and have the story from Helen's side and through her lens as the hero of the story, and then I think the twist is actually really brilliant with Slayer. I think the point was we were supposed to see it coming, but because we are so blind to technology and like media right in front of us, I think it's a really interesting commentary on how we perceive media and how we take it in. I think the score is incredible. Obviously, we love us some Michael Giacchino. Brad Bird is an incredible director. He really gets the most out of his voice actors time in and time out, and the animation is stunning. I think the fighting sequences are better than they were in the first. I think this movie does a really good job of building on top of what we had. I think Violet's character is finally flushed out versus just blah, 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 Dash, what are you doing? Da, da, versus like she now is actually like, oh, we see her actually becoming a teenager and having these issues in high school, and I could actually really relate to her because I feel like I was some of the same in that case. For me, it's Incredibles 2. I know people are more down on the movie than I am, but I know a lot of people my age love the shit out of the film, so it's Incredibles 2.
All right, Force Awakens does make it through. Let's go on to the next one. All right, we have Toy Story 4 versus Frozen. This could get real interesting. Max, where are you heading?
Being put on the spot, I'm gonna go Toy Story 4.
Wow.
As I said before, I really love the Frozen movies, but I thought Toy Story 4 was a really lovely epilogue to Woody's journey, and the animation is beautiful, and Forky. I was able to. It's I think I told someone this before. I relate to Forky on a very deep level. Like, his insecurities and his feeling of being trash is stuff I deal with on a daily basis. Unfortunately, don't worry, I have sought medical help on this matter, and I am dealing with it. So yeah, Toy Story 4, and that surprises me a little bit, but here we are.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah, look, I already said that Frozen isn't really my favorite thing, and only really through Frozen 2 do I kind of appreciate that world. Toy Story 4 was a movie that so many people said we didn't need because of Toy Story 3. And then I watched Toy Story 4 and felt like it really was something that I needed, because it's, okay, what's the beyond? The Toy Story 3 wraps up the perfect ending with Andy. And then Toy Story 4 goes to, well, what happens after your perfect ending, supposedly? And you meet characters like Forky, and you meet characters that have been kind of sold or thrown away or deal with life on their own. And it really kind of resonated with me. And I think people our age probably who hit all of those right notes when it came to the ages they were writing for, who grew up with Toy Story. And Toy Story 4 was really one of those things where I know that Forky is a funny character, but for a lot of us, it's very much like, oh, those existential crises we have all the time, that's me.
Yup.
Hogue, where are you going?
We know how I feel about Frozen. I don't want to take away kind of what it did for, Disney fans, especially young Disney fans, and we're talking about being good kind of images for younger women in Disney about not needing kind of relationships to be the goal. And like there was a lot of aspects to Frozen that I can appreciate, but it was very much the execution I wasn't a fan of. And I feel like I'm going to go with Toy Story 4, but it seems like this is kind of Frozen's only chance to get a platform on it. And I don't want it to be negative of, I see the value in Frozen, and I think there's a lot of kind of joy to be had there. I think Toy Story 4 is better than Toy Story 3. And it took me really off guard when I saw it. I haven't seen it again, but it stuck with me in a way that the message, like what you're talking about, Taylor, of just what's after perfection. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people, one, growing up with Toy Story, and two, just growing up in general, kind of have to talk about of, is the dreams you achieved the end goal? Because you still have to go on past that, and what does that mean? And it's, I cried, and I was very resistant to when I saw that movie. So Toy Story 4.
Okay, I didn't expect that. Evan, where are you going?
I'm gonna just say Toy Story 4 because now I get to defend this movie later, and I will say this: it's my favorite Toy Story movie. So we're gonna keep.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Right.
he is fairly known that. I love Toy Story 4, but Frozen, I think, is a Disney classic. I think Frozen has transcended its modernness into being a Disney classic, and I would have gone with Frozen, but Toy Story 4 makes it. So let's.
To your point, Jacob.
I just want to know how we gathered the perfect group of people to just knock out Frozen, because I never thought that was ever going to happen.
I'm a little disappointed.
Well, Frozen 2 is still in, isn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm the one who doesn't like Frozen
He
2.
doesn't like Frozen 2, so-
Don't count Anna and Elsa out just yet.
All right.
And Olaf.
Let's move on to our next one. We have The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey versus Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm going to start this one. I am not a fan of the first Hobbit film. I think it is overly long, unnecessarily long, and just as much as the first 45 minutes gets you back into the world, that's not enough for me, and it doesn't give you enough of a story and a reason to be as long as it is. So whereas in Deathly Hallows Part 2, I think is the perfect roundup for the rest of the series. It hasn't held up as well in the last 10 years. I would have thought, funny enough, like I do think Part 1 is now better, even when forever ago I thought Part 2 was always the better one. I think Part 1 is now better, but it is still a phenomenal film, and the fact that it's able to stick the landing when so many franchises can't, and it is able to stick its landing very well, is definitely a massive tick for us. I'm going to go with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Taylor.
So I didn't grow up with the Lord of the Rings movies. I watched them for the first time when I was about 20 with some friends who wanted to watch it with me. And so I really appreciate those movies and that world for what it is. I think it's beautiful filmmaking and beautiful storytelling. The Hobbit is a book that I grew up with. So to me, I was excited to see The Hobbit told on screen. And then it was like, oh, you're turning the smallest book I've ever seen into 3 movies. Great, that's going to go well. And spoiler alert, it did not go very well. So I was very disappointed to go into the Hobbit movies and feel like the one that I was connected to as a kid in that world, being the Hobbit, and then just having it kind of be dragged into this 3-movie thing when it could have been a satisfying 1-part or 2-part story that really could have brought us back into the world. It was really disappointing for me. And as much as there are parts of the Deathly Hallows Part 2 that don't quite hold up as well, I think if you look at it when it came out through the lens of the time it came out, it has to be that movie.
All right. Hogue.
I actually have a connection to both these movies. I read The Hobbit in elementary school. I read it on the bus. I remember those moments very distinctly. And having not seen Lord of the Rings, I saw all the Hobbits in theaters, and I think they are a lot better than people give it credit for. And I think it's hard to argue when they are in such comparison to Lord of the Rings, something that, like, I fully admit that if I saw those, I could see how they pale in comparison. But for somebody, I thought, I don't know, like for me, that was my ability to live in the world. my mom doesn't see movies, and we went to see every Harry Potter when they came out. Like that is, as much as I want to be objective film critic, that is a touchstone in my heart. I'll never forget, and I almost get choked up thinking about going to see the last Harry Potter movie with my mom. This is actually one that is going to be hard for me to vote against even going forward. I got to go with Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Okay. Evan.
Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my third least favorite Harry Potter film. But at the same light, it is my third least favorite Harry Potter film. It is a Harry Potter film, and there is not a single bad Harry Potter movie. Hobbits are movies that exist. They're like the Minions, right? You can put them on, and you can have a good time, but it doesn't mean that it's the good time that you want. So I'm gonna go with Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Okay.
Evan, I don't want to I mean this only as a joke because I thought it was funny. I pour my heart out about how this is such an emotional experience of Harry Potter, and you start with, it's my third least favorite movie.
And the other movie lets you have a good time, kind of, but it's not a good time you wanted. So
this will make you want to take a dump. It's
All right, Max. Are you gonna make it a 5-0 sweep?
I don't want to be too repetitive, but I have a tattoo of Snape's Patronus, the silver dove, on my arm. So it's Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Max,
right.
you're my spirit animal.
All right. Next one, we have Avengers Endgame versus Avatar.
Hate it here.
Evan, I'm going to start with
so much.
you.
I think this movie's gonna get kicked out, so I'm gonna go on my soapbox really quick. Avatar was the first movie I've ever wanted to see in theaters. I was like, Dad, I really want to go see this movie. Let's go out. Let's actually make an effort. I want to go see this movie because everybody was talking about it at the time. So we saw it, and it was a magical experience. It is the stepping stone of part of me and my film fandom. But I can't vote against Avengers Endgame. Bro, Hulk gave Ant-Man a taco, and it is the most wholesome thing you're ever gonna see. So we're gonna go with Avengers Endgame.
That's the moment from the movie.
Hogue, where are you going?
I'm gonna fight for Avatar. I think, and I get it. This is coming from me, who has the controversial opinions. If we're talking about importance in film, and I'm also kind of looking, I don't think Avengers Endgame is the best Marvel movie. I don't even think it's the best Avengers movie. Avatar has this weird staying power in a way that, and it gets it's Dances with Wolves with blue people. It's all these different kind of culminations of different stories, but it's Avatar, I really think, is something that we don't see, and is an experience that collectively movie fans all came together and said, this is important in a way that we haven't seen something before. And this is one of the very few times I like Avengers Endgame more, but I think we're talking about importance of film. Avatar, I think, needs to take this one over Endgame, but I'm not going to fight people who say Endgame is better. But I do think Avatar has more of a fighting chance than some people would expect.
Max, where are you going?
This is harder than I might have expected because the zeitgeist path of Avatar is fascinating because when it first came out and it just kept doing consistent numbers week and week and week, and now 11 years later it gets trashed on a lot. I agree, the storytelling is not particularly exciting. It's nothing new. It's very standard, but what it accomplishes is really impressive. But at the same time, Cap fucking uses the hammer and is Avengers symbol, and the portals open, and
yeah,
it's fucking Endgame. I'm sorry.
It's hard to argue.
I feel like this conversation is harder for me to have now than it was when Avatar came out, because I've never been a fan of Avatar. I saw it when it came out, and I was the one person that went, well, I took the wrong pill or something because everyone else really likes it. And it was fine, but I watched it once and have never watched it again and haven't really wanted to watch it again. So, like, this isn't hard for me. And I feel like what Max was saying, where it's like, as time has gone on, it's become more popular for people to not like it. But that's just kind of where I've always been with it. So it feels weird to feel like I get lumped in with like bandwagon people who don't like it now. But I just like, it's never meant anything to me. So
That's fair.
yeah.
You should have a shirt that says, I hated Avatar before it was cool.
Somebody make me that shirt and send it to me.
Okay, I think Endgame is a phenomenal success, and it is absolutely a incredible film to end for the culmination of the MCU and to have it be this moment. And Max is right. We get Cap holding Mjolnir. We get portals. We get Avengers Assemble. We get all these incredible, amazing moments. But I'm also on the same line with Hogue. I think Avatar, for all its faults, is a film that we will never see again in terms of a film having that level of cultural impact and be an original 3D film, like an original multi-million-dollar blockbuster having that level of cultural impact. I don't think we will ever see ever again. It doesn't matter because Endgame makes it through, but I would have voted for our Avatar.
I mean, you were already sleeping on the couch, so you might as well just keep going.
He's in the attic at this point.
I'm glad you clarified. I'm glad you clarified when you said it's a film we'll never see again, because Cameron Bro is making like 4 more of them. So we're going to see it again.
If you want to talk about the king of sequels, James Cameron has come and made a sequel that has defied expectations. So we'll see.
The best lessons I've learned is never doubt James Cameron. Yeah. Every time he has a project, people are like, it's going to flop, no one's going to see it, and then he's counting his billions. So,
and the other thing about James Cameron, really quick, I really do hope he does more research into what exactly the Na'vi are, because a really weird thing, like he found a way, and I learned this over time, to like gentrify the Na'vi, which sounds really weird saying this out loud, but like it feels out of touch what the film should be.
Everything about that sentence makes no sense to me. So
there's people who describe it better than I do online.
The Na'vi tried to move to white suburbia. It didn't work out because the market culture at that time really.
Oh my god! Well, let's just let's just move on.
Next category.
I don't want this to turn into why I'm not a huge fan of James Cameron, because that's just not going to go good places.
Avatar's knocked out. He's in the dust. Everybody,
let's get Jacob having to move out of this apartment completely. Finding Dory versus Skyfall. I'm going to start. Skyfall is my favorite Bond film, so I'm going to go. And Finding Dory, I think, is one of the weaker Pixar movies, so I'm going to go with Skyfall. Max, where are you going?
I really like Finding Dory. I think it's sweet and adorable and has gorgeous animation, but Skyfall is awesome. So, sorry, I'm going Skyfall.
Taylor?
I'm also going Skyfall.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm no longer moving out.
Jacob, you're getting closer off the couch.
I love Finding Dory. I didn't see it in theaters, but once I did eventually get around to watching it, I just like cried like a baby because I think it's adorable and it's a beautiful story and the animation is fantastic. But when you showed me Skyfall, it was like, I guess maybe I have to give Bond a chance now. Damn it. Maybe I actually have to watch these movies now.
I'm getting emotional just thinking of the animation of Baby Dory.
Oh, I know.
Hogue, where are you going?
Just imagine Baby Dory and then James Bond like just squishing her into the ground, because that's what's happening right now. Yeah,
what's wrong with you?
That's I have nightmares.
I didn't see Finding Dory because I Finding Nemo. It's either that or Chamber of Secrets was the first movie I remember seeing in theaters.
How old are you?
25. Oh. I'm also an idiot, so it's hard to judge my choices as a human. This just one of those scenarios that it just Pixar. It felt like, and again, I can't form my own opinion because I haven't seen Finding Dory, but Skyfall is the movie that made me care about James Bond. Yeah, Skyfall.
All right,
Roger Deakins, y'all. Roger
fucking Deakins.
Evan.
I I'm a Pixar stan. That's like one of the only things I'm known for is standing Pixar as a studio. I think Finding Dory is an absolute beauty of a film, like front to back. It pulls at some really great heartstrings. I think for it being a spin-off movie, it does a really good job of maintaining Marlin and Nemo in the movie, which I think is really impressive because whenever we see these spin-off movies, you normally don't see the main characters in that heavy of a role. I would personally go Finding Dory. No shot at Skyfall. I just don't remember the film as much as I think I should. I've seen it like once or twice, so it's probably at the fault of the viewer. I really love Casino Royale, though.
Casino Royale, great movie.
Good movie. All right. We're down to our final two of the first round. We're getting there, guys. All right. Woo. Avengers versus Spider-Man Far From Home. Max, where are you going?
Avengers. If it had been Spider-Man Homecoming, it may be a slightly different conversation, but I have a real soft spot for the original Avengers. Like what Hogue was saying earlier, like just the idea of bringing together 6 superheroes, 4 of whom had previously appeared in their own films, and doing it in a way that was fun and exciting, even though the first 20 minutes are pretty bumpy. Once it starts moving, it really moves. I think Loki's a really solid villain. It has a lot of fun. Avengers.
Okay. Taylor?
This one's actually a tough one for me because the original Avengers movie is the movie I've seen the most in a theater. I saw it 8 times in the theaters when it came out, and it was really...
I do a spit take, but I don't want to ruin it.
But it was a movie that we basically, my friends and I in high school loved it so much that we basically made it a contest to see who could see it the most times. And I still lost with 8, by the way. But that movie meant a lot to me as someone who did see all the movies in theaters, starting with Iron Man. I remember going to Iron Man and really starting that whole journey and being along and not quite being able to believe that we actually got the Avengers movie. And then Far From Home, I think, has some of the best visual sequences that I've seen in an MCU movie. It's stunning and astounding with some of the things that they do. And I think the villain story they tell is really compelling. I think that it gives us a lot of story elements that I really appreciate. And like I said, some of the best visuals that I've seen.
I would also agree that Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the best visuals in the MCU.
Yes. I'm glad someone on this stream knows what I'm talking about.
I misheard that, and then I thought about it.
So it is actually tough for me because although I don't see the Avengers as aging very well, it was so important at the time, and it did so much for the MCU at the time. And as much as I do appreciate what Far From Home did, and as much as I love Gyllenhaal in that movie and think they told a really interesting story, the way that movie ends kind of ruins it just a little bit for me. So I'm going to go with the Avengers.
Interesting. All right, Evan, give your spiel.
Far From Home is so goddamn good, like front to back. I think Tom Holland and Zendaya's relationship in the film is supernatural. I think their chemistry on camera is like makes you feel something.
I was going to say the Winchester brothers are involved.
You know what? You get the idea. I also do like the facts that not Peter having to deal with someone that wasn't Uncle Ben's death is a really cool idea, and people give him flack for it being Tony Stark's death. But like the fact that it's something different, and we have seen Uncle Ben's death so many times, whether that's in comics, television, or film, I think is really cool. The facts like we actually see, the fact that we see Peter cope with that is really awesome. I think Giacchino's score is amazing. John Watts is a really smart director when it comes to putting his actors in a place where they can succeed. Because a lot of movie, you could argue a straight line in how it's telling its story, but because of where he's putting his actors in the dialogue that is being told, I think Jake Gyllenhaal and Tom Holland especially get to shine in this movie. And also, the action is so amazing. Like, oh my God, just blew me away. And I think the main issue that I have with the Avengers is the scope. To this day, it still bothers me. That 4-3 just throws me off time and time again. So I'm going to go Far From Home.
All right. Pat.
Evan, if there is a movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to have an orgasm for, it's the Avengers. As somebody who really doesn't like Homecoming, who really is not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Spider-Man, I really enjoyed Far From Home. It really won me over in a lot of places. Not least of which is Jake Gyllenhaal. I really think that is such a good villain, and like kind of Evan, to your point of a death for Peter Parker that like reverberates and works within the MCU, that I think is very smart in a way that Homecoming wasn't about his place in this universe. The Avengers is the Avengers. And we had this discussion when we're talking about The Dark Knight of it versus Iron Man, of kind of, Jacob, I think it was you that said that Iron Man kind of became the template of what Hollywood was going to be. I think that wasn't cemented until The Avengers came out. And that was the one that showed, like, because this was the same year Dark Knight Rises came out. And you kind of saw the previous iteration of what we thought Hollywood was going to be after Dark Knight, and kind of, the franchises that tried to continue that dark and gritty version of it kind of burnt themselves out very quickly after that. Avengers, I agree with you, Taylor. It doesn't age great, but it is such a template for kind of a moment in time that still holds up for what it is attempting to do, in a way that, like, it's clunky, it's kind of gross, it's kind of weird, it's fluffy and gross and fat and weird parts, but it sticks the landing of what it's trying to do in such a triumphant way that I won't do much explaining about it going further, but the Avengers is so important that I think it overrides kind of quality in a weird way. So Avengers.
All right. And I'm also voting for the Avengers. So Avengers makes it through. All right. Next one we have.
Oh, God.
Furious 7 versus Jurassic Park. Evan, where are you going?
It's one of the best. It has one of the best songs of, you could argue, all time. Furious 7. But Jurassic Park. Sorry, I was reading Jurassic World at first. That's why I was so confused.
Sorry,
I'm an idiot.
It's the original Jurassic Park.
I was so confused. It's Jurassic Park. My bad, guys. But also, let's not sleep on Furious 7. That song is great.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Wow.
Where are you going?
Furious 7 is the best Fast and Furious movie. And it breaks my heart that it's up against. This is one that I'm kind of like, I want to have like a Taylor impassioned like speech of the importance of like Furious 7. I think of what that also means kind of for blockbuster filmmaking, and James Wan as a director handling, the situation behind this movie with Paul Walker, but also like using that to fundamentally like raise a franchise that's known for fun and like car chases and explosions, and make it this empathetic experience that audiences everywhere were able to come together and have a collective just mourning but celebration of somebody's life and somebody's career. And it's going across Jurassic Park. Which is Jurassic Park. Like, Evan, you're telling me Furious 7 has a banger of a song. John Williams takes his pants off and teabags that song with Jurassic Park's theme. Like, it's Jurassic Park.
Guys, this is the kind of content. I can't be the only one having impassioned speeches here, okay? We need some passion going on.
They re-released it in 3D, and it's the best 3D movie I have seen in theaters. Like, it's Jurassic Park.
Just to get anyone who's asking, that is the only reason it is now $1 billion film, because they re-released it in 3D. It's the one that got it over the line to make it $1 billion film. So that
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Give me a cigarette after that.
Do that way.
Max, where are you heading?
Look, Furious 7 is a perfectly enjoyable action movie, but it's fucking Jurassic Park, arguably one of the greatest films of all time, still one of the greatest achievements in computer-generated imagery, matching with these gorgeous giant audio animatronic puppets. John Williams did, in fact, drop his balls on Wiz Khalifa's forehead. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth.
I mean, come on. It's not, this is not a discussion. This is like, hey, do you want this like frozen White Castle burger, or do you want to go to Peter Luger's? Give me a fucking break. It's Jurassic Park.
That's like, do you want to eat food in America, or are you stuck in Australia and have to eat that food?
Taylor, do you have to sleep on the couch tonight?
Taylor.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's fair.
Excuse me. Jurassic Park was a movie that I did watch as a kid. I watched those movies as a kid as well. I had an interesting childhood of what iconic movies I was introduced to as a kid and which ones I wasn't. Jurassic Park I was, and it was a movie that I loved as a kid, but also terrified me as a kid. Like what they did with the dinosaurs in those movies was so ahead of the times. Like what they were able to do was just astounding. And as a kid, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. Has to be Jurassic Park.
All right, Jurassic Park.
I feel so embarrassed now, like that I froze that long.
No, Furious 7 is an important movie. It just had to go against Jurassic Park. Like,
you know what? I already had my turn of like threatening the seating of the bracket. Now it's everyone else's turn to deal with the seating.
This is one I'm angry about. Jacob,
Welcome to the
I can't sleep on my couch.
All right, we are back into round 2, guys.
We're in round
Thank
2
God.
now? Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King versus Captain America
I'm gonna
Civil
piss some people
War.
off.
Taylor.
This one is a tough one for me because Civil War is a movie that I remember getting the trailers for and being really excited about because it's another one of those big stepping stone movies in the MCU in terms of where the universe was going to go and driving a lot of those character arcs forward. It's hard though because Lord of the Rings, it's not one that I would put on probably as often as Civil War to just watch. Lord of the Rings movies are a bit harder for me to get through, but I think the quality of them is so much better that I can't really vote against it. Like it has such a big emotional impact even on me. That movie destroys me. And it's something that I don't think in good conscience that I can vote against for Civil War.
Okay. Max, where are you going?
It's Return of the King. That's all there is to it for me.
Evan, what about you?
I know I'm gonna have the only one with this opinion, but I have out of any like film franchise, I actually think have the most Captain America memorabilia that I have in my possession. Obviously, it's not here because I've moved locations for a while, but I have this really cool, nice little like painted piece of Cap. I have a Cap little Funko Pop, which is really cute. I have a Cap shirt. I have another Cap canvas that was like $5 from GameStop. It's gonna be Civil War for me. That film really like nailed my love for like the MCU and comic book movies in general. No shots of Return of the King. It's just I didn't grow up with these films that a lot of other people did. And it's something that like when people say we're gonna do like a Lord of the Rings rewatch, I always be like, all right, and I have to like mentally prepare myself for it, if that makes any sense. No shots of Lord of the Rings. I've seen them. They're really good movies, but like I can put on Civil War at any time and be like, this is what I want to see, you know?
Okay.
I mean, I can't fault Evan. I
No,
basically
yeah,
have the
yeah.
same. Like, it's harder for me to just sit down and watch Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
but you know.
Hogue?
I'm gonna make your job a little harder, Jacob. I'm gonna abstain from this one. I haven't seen Return of the King. I have a vote if you need me to, depending on what your turns out to be. But because I haven't seen Return of the King,
Yeah.
I don't want me to influence what that is.
That's fair. We're not going to need your vote because I am also picking Return of the King. As fun and as enjoyable as Civil War is, and I can have a lot of fun with Civil War, it's not. Return of the King is such a landmark of cinema that it transcends all of those other films where it kind of just is its own thing where you're doing a list of greatest films of all time and maybe you'll have a MCU movie on there. A Lord of the Rings movie is guaranteed to be on there. So I think you have to go Return of the King.
And it's to the point of I'm okay with like sitting this out because there are other Marvel movies I'm willing to fight more for going forward than I love Civil War. It's not my favorite. So I'm excited to start getting to that.
Next up, we have
Oh God.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest versus Frozen 2. Evan, I'm going to start with you.
It's the no.
Oh God, he's back to
Frozen
singing.
2.
Taylor.
Okay, so nobody like come after me for this. I'm not good with titles. I need a number. Which number Pirates is this? 2. Okay. I have that trouble with all of the franchises that have like 8 movies. I'm like, wait a second, I need a number. I don't know which one this one is. Yeah. I mean, we rewatched the Pirates movies about a year ago now.
Yeah.
And I really do like the first couple. Those movies, I think, I have a soft spot for them. And it's tough because Frozen 2 really, like I said, did get me to appreciate the world of Frozen. And I loved what they explored with like the different mythologies and that kind of stuff. So I don't really know where I want to go with this one. Like, I'm a little bit torn about it. Interesting this one is.
Yoda phrasing right there.
I have to channel everything that I can to make this decision. I'm gonna go with Frozen.
All right.
I'll go with Frozen.
Max?
Yeah, I'm also going into the unknown on this one.
Okay. Hogue?
I didn't talk much about Dead Man's Chest last time. I thought it was going to be harder. Love Frozen 2, Dead Man's Chest. And, last time in a bracket, we had the chance of changing people's minds. So, maybe I'll give, a little opportunity to see if I can convince the people that have voted already. But this movie is weird. And, in terms of we're talking about, Disney representation, I don't know if Frozen 2 is the best version of what Disney is presenting forward as the best version of a billion-dollar movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, is an epic story told with multiple characters. Matt, what you brought up earlier about the wheel scene, the fight scene, Gord Verbinski really showing off individualistic entities within the Disney franchise. And that was a movie that could have so easily rested on its laurels, but it really just it had a 2-movie epic scale that it knew it needed to set up, and that payoff for what that tease was at the end of that movie of finding Jack Sparrow at World's End. Dead Man's Chest is kind of a beautiful artifact that this is what you can do with a franchise within kind of a conglomerate like Disney, and what you can have fun with it. Frozen 2 is great. It does a lot of incredible storytelling, but the jumping off point from that movie and kind of what it does with it, I think is a bit too jumbled for it to be the signifier for the best billion-dollar movie. Whereas Dead Man's Chest, I feel opened its chest of toys, played with a bunch of them, and said, get ready for the next one, because I know you had a lot of fun right now, but wait until we go forward. And, your mileage may vary for where they went, but Dead Man's Chest, I think, is kind of a incredible billion-dollar movie to exist.
So I completely agree with you, Hogue, and I think I would much rather Dead Man's Chest get through. However, unfortunately, Frozen 2 has gotten through. So Frozen 2 gets through, and we move on to our next one. All right, we're back.
Oh, good.
The Last Jedi versus Infinity War. Max, where are we heading?
Oh, easy. Last Jedi. I like Infinity War. Last Jedi is my second favorite Star Wars movie. I think it's a masterwork of subversive blockbuster cinema. I think in 20 years it will be appreciated at large for what it accomplished, and some people may be less angry about it. It's Last Jedi.
Evan,
these movies has porgs.
The theater watching experiences were two totally different things. Because there were 2 different movies at 2 different times that came out, and they meant 2 different things to their fandoms. I'm gonna personally go Infinity War with a slight edge. The movie makes me bawl every time I watch it, and it's hard to look past that.
Taylor?
This one, it's kind of tough for me, but at the same time, Infinity War has a very interesting personal meaning to me just because of the situation in which I watched that movie, and the theater experience, and just kind of how much it completely knocked me off my feet and really going, I can't watch this movie again right now. I need a couple weeks to sit with what just happened. And that was an interesting experience for me where I didn't want to see it right away because I needed to be able to process kind of what I felt about what had happened. The Last Jedi is arguably my favorite Star Wars movie. It's definitely somewhere in my top 2 or 3, depending on the day. But and it is a movie that I think is a lot more than Star Wars deserved to get, and still probably deserves to have at this point, in terms of what it seems like they want out of their movies as a company. And it's hard for me because Infinity War is something that, as someone who has followed that entire MCU journey from the very beginning, from a theatrical experience, that was a moment that I went, I don't really know how soon we're going to get something like this ever again. But Star Wars has always been my first love since I was a kid. So it has to be Star Wars.
Okay. Hogue, where are you heading?
Taylor, goddammit, you got such a good kind of accumulation of my thoughts. Of just, first time I saw Last Jedi was mild at best. I thought I really enjoyed that. That was fun. Good movie. Don't know how I felt about it. Kind of felt like a weird kind of version of the story I was expecting. Has only grown for me in quality over time. Whereas the first time I saw Infinity War felt like a moment. If I felt buzzing in a way after a movie that I haven't in kind of anything ever since. But Taylor, I kind of think you put it perfectly. If Last Jedi is kind of a movie that Lucasfilm doesn't deserve, it's kind of it's almost shocking that got through the system and was able to kind of be released and experienced in that sort of way. Infinity War, I do think is important, but I don't think it's the best Marvel movie that we still have going left, but this is a little bit tougher one than I was expecting, but I'm going to go with Last Jedi.
And Last Jedi makes it through. I would also be voting for Last Jedi, I think. And it is just by an inch, but I think Last Jedi
is
close.
It's definitely close.
For context, Infinity War is the first movie we ever got to see in a theater together. Like, I landed, and 2 hours later we went to see the movie. So, like, it has a lot of personal meaning for us.
Okay, you were like, I just want to take a nap, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna go see a 3-hour movie right now.
That's pretty much what we did. All right, because it literally
where I wasn't close on that.
That's interesting. Okay. All right, we have our last one of the first bracket in round 2: Black Panther versus Toy Story 3. Evan, I'm going to start with you.
No one's perfect. We ain't deserved this. It's Black Panther over Toy Story 3. It's our house.
Max, where are we heading?
Toy Story 3.
Wait, yeah, it's Black Panther, not Toy Story 3. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I know. I got what you said.
Okay.
Yeah. Hogue, where are you heading?
I'm a bit shocked by both your choices. I would have thought it was flipped. I'm going with Black Panther. I'm very surprised at both of your choices. Wow.
I think the thing about me is, while I really enjoy the MCU, it's not one of my like super duper favorite things. I think most of the movies are pretty good. So even though Black Panther is in my top 5 of the MCU, I just don't think they're like great cinema other than 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, and I personally
they're super duper fun, and I am not insulting them at all. But
for whatever reason, it's because I don't think I saw Toy Story 1 and 2. I personally didn't connect with Toy Story 3 as much.
I think, as we talked about earlier, Toy Story 3 meant so much to a very specific generation. The people who were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 when the first one and the second one came out, who were then in their 20s when Toy Story 3 came out, as opposed to you, who when Toy Story 3 came out were 10 or so.
Taylor?
Oh, God. This one is definitely a tough one because I am a very big Marvel MCU person, and to actually see Black Panther get made felt like a triumph, even though it shouldn't have. Like, it shouldn't have been a movie that was a triumph, but it was, that it actually got made. And I think Coogler did a fantastic job. I think the world building was spectacular. It was a beautiful movie. And then you have Toy Story 3, where it is like still an emotional experience for those of us who were in our 20s when Toy Story 3 came out, because it was like, oh, this is going to be something that we're going to make sure you guys all take personally because you grew up with the first two. And so that's why it's kind of a tough thing, because I think they're both very culturally important, but for very different reasons.
Yeah.
Clearly Black Panther did something culturally that it should have, and kind of proved, why did you wait so long to make this movie? This is ridiculous. But on a personal level, I have to go with Toy Story 3.
Oh, that means I have the deciding vote.
Jacob, can I say something really quick? Because I didn't know it would be this tight, and I was pretty certain that Black Panther would make it through. But now that this might be its last chance, can I give my platform for it before the last deciding vote is made?
Okay, before you do, just because Toy Story 3 means a lot to me. It absolutely does mean an absolute lot to me, but I do really think that I really think Black Panther is a damn near perfect movie. And
it's your turn to suffer.
Suffer.
I have to vote for Toy Story 3 for the furnace scene, and that's literally the only thing that's going to get it over the line. That's literally all it is. It's the furnace scene. Black Panther doesn't have a furnace scene, even though it has so many. Oh god, yeah, it's the furnace scene. I'm voting Toy Story 3, and this is painful, and I'm ripping off the Band-Aid.
All right, it's ripped off. It's done.
All right, it's done. All right, let's move on.
Poorly.
Hogue's devastated right now.
Yeah. I think Toy Story 3 is one of the lesser Pixar movies.
Wow. Okay. No, don't agree with that. But all right, let's move on to the next bracket, and we have
Oh no.
The Dark Knight versus The Force Awakens.
Shit.
Evan, I'm going to start with you.
I know I wasn't the biggest fan of The Force Awakens when I talked about it last time, but it's also now going against The Dark Knight. And if you know anything about my relationship with Christopher Nolan, it's very weird. His films make you feel like you're there, and I don't know if I like that all the time, because I'm just I'm really uncomfortable. And I know that's halfway the purpose behind his directing style, but I could flip on The Force Awakens any day of the week and put a big old smile on my face. And come on, Rey and Finn beating the shit out of Kylo Ren gives me so much life. So much life. And Rey doing what she did throughout the whole film just gives me so much life. And this was the first Star Wars movie I had ever seen in theaters.
Okay. Hogue, where are you going?
Force Awakens reminds you why you like the franchise, and it did that very well. Dark Knight changed pop culture in a way that we are still feeling the reverberations, where the latest trailer for Tenet just came out and uses a shot from The Dark Knight to promote its new movie 12 years later. Dark Knight is a film that emanates just that gray area that movie people and culture and fans are not willing to go into, and really started discussions about what we can do with franchises. Force Awakens was fun. It was a reinvention. It did everything it needed to do, and even a little bit more than that with its new characters. Dark Knight is literally the definition of the next level. Dark Knight.
All right. I am going to go. All right, I'm going to go with The Dark Knight. I love Force Awakens, and I think Force Awakens is a fantastic film, and it does exactly what it needs to do. It does exactly what it sets up to do, which is reintroduce a franchise. The Dark Knight kind of transcends that. It redefined its own genre, and while it wasn't for very long, it's a film that is about something and is trying to say something and it also features one of hands down the single greatest performances we will ever see a comic book movie give. And so that's why I'm going to go with The Dark Knight.
I mean, you guys can all kind of said it all. The Force Awakens did what it needed to do, and it achieved what it set out to do really well to reintroduce this universe to everybody. But it has to be The Dark Knight. It just has to be.
Okay, Max, what's your vote?
Thank you all for making this easier for me, because maybe the hardest one for me thus far. I love The Force Awakens so much. I saw it 7 times in theaters. I have posters on my wall. I have the aforementioned tattoo. But there's something about The Dark Knight that's special. There's something about Heath Ledger's performance. There's something about that opening scene that's clearly riffing on Heat, but is so incredibly constructed, especially if you're fortunate enough to see it in IMAX. And even though I have some issues with the third act of The Dark Knight, and I might prefer Batman Begins on the whole in that trilogy, The Dark Knight just hit at a time that made it so special, so unique. So I am going to vote for The Dark Knight. I am so glad I did not have the deciding vote. Melt live on the internet.
That would have been awesome.
Let's move on to our next one. We have Toy Story 4 versus Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Why? No, don't do that. These movies were both pretty much exactly what I needed them to be at the time in my life when I saw them. Toy Story 4, like I said earlier, had a big impact on me as an adult, trying to figure out what being an adult means. And it really hit me a lot harder than I was expecting. I remember getting really, really emotional about that movie. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is an emotional experience for me for a different reason, because I had experienced all of the Harry Potter films in theaters, and my parents had read me the books as they came out as I was a kid. And then as they kept coming out, it was something that I kept up with. And I do think that it sticks the landing in a lot of ways that other franchise ending movies have not been able to do. And it was an emotional experience for me because of that. And Harry Potter as a franchise still means a lot to me. But I just don't know where to go with it, because they both mean so much to me for such different reasons. I think I'm going to have to go with Harry Potter just because I would probably put it on. If I was going to pick one to put on, I would probably put Deathly Hallows on. But that's really the only, I have to find a reason to pick one, and that's what I'm going with.
All right. Hogue, where are you going?
This is a tough one. It's not as tough just because this is going to be the category, and this is going to be the film that nostalgia wins over kind of logic and presentation. I think Toy Story 4 is very special in a lot of ways, in a movie that shouldn't work, but works so well and does what it does so well. But Deathly Hallows left me with the feeling I needed that movie to leave me with, and gave me the moments I needed that movie to give me. It's Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Evan, where are you heading?
So if this was Deathly Hallows Part 1, I would be struggling a lot. I would be in tears. I think what has happened with Disney/Pixar animation in the past 3-4 years is that these movies make a shit ton of money, and maybe it's because I'm now in the space that I'm in, but people are slowly not recognizing them to be as big or even as popular or even as good as they are, because we've seen these franchises a certain amount of times or whatever. Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4, the first two that come to mind, was the mass populace loves these movies. They obviously endear them as they both made $1 billion. Yet when it comes the inner film circle, there's yeah, these movies were made, woohoo. But I can't live with that, because Toy Story 4 is really, really special. I think it is the most different looking Toy Story movie for a good reason. I think it's the most different sounding Toy Story movie. I think it's the most different Toy Story movie in terms of theme. It took some chances and it took some really hard roles, but it was also introducing a whole new generation of people and children to the Toy Story franchise, and it did it so brilliantly. I'm gonna go Toy Story 4. I absolutely adore this movie.
All right, Max, where are you heading?
So, despite the fact that with each passing day, I am more over and angry and upset with the creator of the world in the film I'm picking, I have to do my best to separate the art and the artist on this one. For better or worse, few things pop culture related in my life has had as much import and an impact on me as Harry Potter. I started reading the books when they came out in 97 because I was a library rat. Like the librarian would be like, we got something new in, you can have it before anyone else. And I'd read it in one night. And as others have said, like compared to other franchises, even though it's not my favorite of the series, Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a really strong ending. It hits the emotional beats, it hits the action and adventure beats. Neville Longbottom with the sword and the genie just give me chills every time. It's just a really well done final chapter in the series. So even though I do admire and love Toy Story 4 a lot, it's got to be Deathly Hallows.
I would be having a lot more of a hard time if this was Toy Story 3 because
Agreed.
I think Toy Story 4 is an incredible film, but I don't think the ending impacts as hard as Toy Story 3's ending, whereas in Deathly Hallows Part 2's ending impacts more than Toy Story 4's. So I'm going to go with, I just tear up hearing that music now. I don't think the epilogue is the greatest thing in the world. I don't think it's very, incredibly well done, but the music alone just makes me tear up, and just hearing that score and seeing and that final shot of the trio standing there is just I'm going with Deathly Hallows Part 2, which makes it on next. All right, we have Avengers Endgame versus Skyfall. I'm gonna start and throw myself straight under the bus. Skyfall is winning, is getting my vote, and I want Skyfall to win this one so much. Skyfall is the best Bond film. As great as Avengers Endgame is, and as amazing as Portals, and as amazing as all of these incredible moments in that film is, Skyfall is one of the single greatest action films ever made, and I want this to get through so badly. So this is my impassioned speech for Skyfall. Please, let Skyfall get through. Taylor, tell me why I'm wrong.
No, don't go to me.
Okay, Evan, I'm going to go to you.
I'm so stressed out because I actually feel like there's a chance Endgame doesn't go through. There's a reason everybody and their brother and their cousin and their cousin's cousin and their cousin's girlfriend and their cousin's boyfriend went to it.
And they're all in the same family.
Yeah, exactly.
So Alabama,
Mississippi,
so sorry, forgive me.
North Dakota. I
We
have
just
this.
lost a quarter of our audience.
I have this thing where I saw this movie 4 times in the theater. I relinquished it. I took in all 3 hours. I am notorious for not being able to watch full-on movies. It is not a genetic thing. It is a brain malfunction that I have. My ADHD doesn't let me sit down for a long amount of times and concentrate. You can see me doze off during this stream. It happens. It happened during Jurassic Park, but Avengers Endgame kept my attention pretty fucking consistently. And I think what this film does, and it closes a chapter not only to a franchise, but to a moment in history. Never has this experiment ever been done before. We have never seen this many movies lead up to this epic conclusion where all of our heroes actually come together at the end. And we actually, we have a feeling that this is going to continue, not in the way how we were used to it, but a new hopeful beginning to all of this. It's definitely a passing of the torch film at the end of the day, but it is the most gargantuous, epic passing the torch film that will ever exist. It is such a good close to a book. It's Avengers Endgame for me. No shafting on Skyfall, but one is film history. One will sit in film history for the rest of eternity.
All right.
That's my passion.
Max, I'm going to go to you.
This is actually quite easy for me, and the answer is Skyfall.
Wow. Okay.
I like Endgame a lot. It has amazing, empowering, awesome moments. It's definitely a great accomplishment, but Skyfall, and I love Casino Royale pretty much as much, just made a beautiful, gorgeous, thoughtful spy epic out of a character that had existed through the 60s. both Casino Royale and Skyfall reinvigorated new life and new blood into one of the great characters of fiction. And with Skyfall, you have Roger Deakins creating these indelible images, the use of light and shadow, the scene in Hong Kong with the neon lights against the glass, and all you see is the silhouettes of them fighting. You have the ending sequence at his childhood house with the fire, and it's just such a gorgeous film. And it's a kick-ass action movie, and I have a massive crush on Ben Whishaw, so that also like gives it like a little bit of an extra. I mean, he's Paddington.
That's best.
It's Skyfall. The crush and Paddington are unrelated. I saw your look there, Hogue. I do not have a crush on a bear.
Pause up.
Not that kind of bear.
All right, Taylor.
Nope.
Okay. Where are you going?
I'm so disappointed.
First off, the fact that you wouldn't have a crush on Paddington bothers me because that bear is so smoochable.
He's adorable. I'm not a furry.
Listen, this is an open podcast.
You are. I'm just not.
Both of these films deal with the legacies of 20 plus movies. They both deal with your conception of characters. They both deal with endings to your perception of what's going on. They're both presented in a way that understands the momentous occasion that these films represent. Both films, have these moments that call back to the past history of what these franchises to represent. Avengers has the Mjolnir moment with Captain America, and has the I am Iron Man moment, and has the snap. Skyfall has M at the end in that church with Javier Bardem, and has Javier Bardem as your villain, even though Josh Brolin as Thanos in Avengers Endgame. Both these films deal with legacy in such a reverential and important way. And that's why Skyfall has to get my vote, because it made me jump off my apathy of James Bond into a way that I didn't know I could be emotional for a movie. Endgame really plays on all of my emotional notes of what all these characters have built up to, and it's so well done and so well presented. Skyfall shook me out of apathy. Like that, it is so perfect in presentation, so beautiful in execution, and artistic in a way that this franchise is so rarely allowed to let itself be, that it has to be Skyfall.
Okay. Taylor?
Well, now it doesn't matter, so I'm off the hook.
Okay.
Endgame is the, it's like we've said, it's the culmination of this thing that we never thought we were actually going to end up getting to. Like, it was the goal for the end game of that phase. Like, that's where they ultimately wanted it to build to. And the fact that it worked out and they were able to make it is such a miracle to me. And it did something that I don't think a lot of people are able to acknowledge at this point still, like how much of a feat that actually is. But I was going to vote for Skyfall. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay, take that Hunger Games shit out of here.
Endgame misses out. All right. Let's move on to our next one.
That's a pleasant surprise, I won't lie.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to lie. It kind of is. All right. The Avengers versus Jurassic Park. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Jurassic Park. Thank you. Next.
Evan.
I'm upset because you're going to make me vote against Avengers after another Avengers movie just got knocked out, the superior one. Goodbye, Pat Hogue. I'm going to go Jurassic Park. The Avengers don't deserve this slaughter. It's going to be Jurassic Park, though.
All right. Hogue, where are you going?
So I'm in a precarious situation now where you guys only move if I move. So if I'm like going back and forth just to make sure that I see the lead is still going, this is a tough one. The Avengers got my sister to watch. She doesn't watch movies, like in general. It got her to watch all of the movies leading up to this one. This was a family touchstone for me. But I can't fight against what Jurassic Park is, which is one of the best blockbusters that's ever existed. And also Laura Dern is my spirit animal in a way that, Max, I said you were earlier, but it's Laura Dern.
If there's anyone I want to be replaced by, it's Laura fucking Dern.
Yeah.
I mean, to quote Pat from yesterday, step on me, Laura Dern.
Step on me, Laura Dern.
She can step on my throat with like the thickest 12-inch shield she can find, and I'm good.
While
Jurassic-
Jeff Goldblum watches going,
Jurassic Park makes it through. So just to let you guys know right now, we have two Warner Brothers films, a Sony film, a Universal film, another Warner Brothers film, and 3 Disney films. So this is actually quite an interesting bracket. The diversity is actually quite interesting. All right, let's go. We have Return of the King versus Frozen 2. Evan, I'm going to start with you.
I'm gonna be the one who votes for this. It's Frozen 2 for me. Again, I just don't have that connection that other people do with Lord of the Rings. I can very much easily cry to Frozen 2 than I can to Return of the King. That makes any sense.
Okay. Maxwell?
I am no man. It's Return of the King.
I know.
All right. Taylor?
Yeah. Return of the King.
All right.
Yeah.
Hogue, I know you haven't seen, so I am going to, but I would have always going to vote for the King, so.
And I was also going to go with Return of the King. Just if we're talking about comparison of importance in movies, this one feels appropriate to me to go with Return of the King.
All right. This one is going to be another interesting one. We have The Last Jedi versus Black Panther. No, not Black Panther. Sorry, it's not Black Panther. It is Toy Story 3.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
I did that wrong. It is Toy Story 3. So Last Jedi versus Toy Story 3.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Max.
Last Jedi.
Yeah. I'm also going to vote for Last Jedi.
Are you really?
I have to. The as much as I love and I adore Toy Story 3, and I think Toy Story 3 is such an incredible film. The conversation Luke has with Rey about the Force is enough to get it over the line. So Rey, Last Jedi wins.
For you?
Yeah, Last
vote?
Jedi gets my vote.
All right. Where are we going? Who's next?
Evan, where are you going?
I am such a whore for Pixar. I don't know how many more times I need to scream this out loud, but it's also like The Last Jedi. It's like top 3, top 4 Star Wars for me. My issue I'm having here is top Pixar beats out top Star Wars for me. But this is like top Star Wars and like mid-tier Pixar for me, if that makes any sense, you know? And it's also really hard to ignore like what Toy Story 3 means for cinema, you know? The fact that it was like everyone is going to come to this movie and cry, and like you're going to cry your eyes out no matter what gets pumped out. I'm going to go with Toy Story 3. It's so slight. It is so slight. Long live Rian Johnson. I'm sure he's going to get through this round.
He'll be
It's Toy Story 3 by like such the slightest margin.
All right. Hogue, where are you going?
And this one's easier for me. Last Jedi. Toy Story 3, I think is great. Was very important to me at the time. I was kind of in that sweet spot for what that movie meant to me in terms of growing up with Toy Story. Last Jedi, that's going to be the one for me to see what will take that down.
Tell.
I mean, I guess I'm going with The Last Jedi. I mean, I was going to, but I'm very surprised that I'm just a little surprised by how that went. But
that's more of a talk. The next one's going to be interesting for me.
Oh God,
the next one's going to be very, very interesting for me.
All
But
right.
all right, next
it.
we have The Dark Knight versus Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I am going to kick this one right off and just burn the entire chat down.
All right, burn it down.
I'm voting Harry Potter as touchstone of a film that Dark Knight is, and as incredible as a performance that Heath Ledger gives, that third act does have issues. Whereas in Deathly Hallows Part 2 ends perfectly. So I'm going to go with Deathly Hallows Part 2. Evan, I'm going to go to you.
because Avengers Endgame got voted out, the precursor to what was Avengers Endgame is Deathly Hallows Part 2. I think there is a very real argument to be had. Without Deathly Hallows Part 2, we don't have Avengers Endgame. And it's a very interesting conversation to have for another time, but for that reason alone, I'm going to go Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Okay. Hogue.
I think that's a weird argument to make, Evan, just because I feel that more if Dark Knight didn't exist, we would even less get Avengers Endgame in terms of specifically genre, but also just kind of placement of ideals in society. This is the toughest one for me just because Harry Potter Part 2 means that much, but Dark Knight is one of those films that I think rises above any sense of nostalgia I have. And Jacob, I agree with you. The ending does get a little kind of like imbalanced in terms of ideal execution versus entertainment value. But once it finally gets to that final stretch of Jim Gordon's speech about what the film represents and it ending with the Dark Knight quote cutting to title, it overcomes any kind of clumsiness it took to get to that end to really leave you with an impact that film, I think, resonated through society as a whole. I got to go with The Dark Knight.
Okay. Taylor?
Yeah, I think Harry Potter Part 2 for me is a fantastic movie that really hit me emotionally when it came out just because of the journey.
Oh, no.
There are problems I have with the movie that aren't necessarily the movie's fault, because it's more of a problem I have with the source material of the way they decide to end the movie. And some of it is the movie's fault, some of it's the source material's fault. So it's a little bit of both that I have issues with the way that the movie actually ends overall. But it's such an emotional ending to that franchise that we all that people my age grew up with, and that the actors in the movies grew up with. And The Dark Knight, it's tough because I feel like that movie kind of stands on its own. I don't feel like it really, as much as I love Batman Begins and I think it fits relatively well with that movie, I think it's a movie that really kind of stands on its own apart from a franchise, which gives me a little bit of a different perspective on it. So it's tough because one of them you have being the ending to this big epic adventure you've been on for all these years, and the other one kind of feels like this is the statement piece of this supposed to be trilogy, but this is the one that people really gravitate towards. And I think I'm going to go with The Dark Knight.
Wow.
Oh, I'm stressed.
Max, Taylor's just kind of throwing you under the bus. You've got a decision to make.
I felt it coming.
Count your children.
This is very difficult.
I don't like it here. I hate it.
I'm the one who's stressing. It's so tough that this bracket is based on how much money movies made, because if it were certain other Harry Potter movies, it might be an easier choice for me.
Yeah.
I have to go Dark Knight. I'm sorry.
Dark Knight makes it through. All right. Next we have.
Whew. God, I just lost like 5 pounds.
All right. Next we have Jurassic Park versus Skyfall.
Why did I think it was going to get easier going?
No, it's going to get increasingly more difficult.
All right, Hogue, I'm going to let you start so you don't have to decide or anything.
Brackets never get easier as they go on. You're not playing in a basketball tournament and you're like, yeah, if we win now, the final round will be much easier. That's not how it works.
This one is a little easier for me. I love both these movies. I think there is so much inherent value into what they contribute to both their franchises. but I think it really speaks to the importance of Jurassic Park that this first film came out so strong and revolutionized so much that, 5 films in, waiting for the 6th one, we are still this kind of fervent for this kind of content. Whereas James Bond didn't need Skyfall, but goddamn did it deserve it in a way. Jurassic Park was a lightning bolt in the ground for what blockbuster filmmaking could be. I gotta go with Jurassic Park on this one.
All right. Taylor.
Yeah, this one is interesting because Jurassic Park means more to me in terms of I grew up with those movies, and I think they were a masterclass in blockbuster filmmaking at the time and have stood the test of time to still be that. Skyfall, like I said, is one of the movies that actually kind of got me to start caring about Bond because I didn't grow up with them. We didn't watch them in my house. Like, it's just never been a thing for me. And then you were like, well, let's start you with the Daniel Craig movies and see how this goes.
Yeah.
And I think Skyfall is a beautifully made film. It does a lot for the Bond movies. And it's just something that you have to appreciate. So it's a tough one for me because they both have done different things for me. But I'm going to have to go with Jurassic Park.
Okay. I am voting for Skyfall. Now, I love the Jurassic Park movies. I love the first Jurassic Park, but I didn't grow up on them. I didn't see it until the 3D re-release. That was the first time I ever saw Jurassic Park, which was in a 3D re-release. And so these films have never had this these cultural
Wow, that's
like internal impact on me my entire life. It's more just been this, that was a really awesome movie and well made. And I think the first act of Jurassic Park is so much better than the second act, I think. And this whole sense of wonder and this whole sense of just journey in is just absolutely phenomenal. Whereas, and I think Skyfall is the film that you were saying, Hogue, you said that, Jurassic Park had this bolt of lightning that created the whole franchise, and it's the reason, and we all keep coming back because Jurassic Park was so good. Whereas I think Skyfall, Bond needed a Skyfall. Bond was starting to become stale and starting to become this franchise that was, hey, people aren't going to care about this anytime soon. And then Skyfall came and they got an Oscar-winning director to make a Bond film, and he not only did he knock it out of the park, he made one of the single greatest action films ever made, and that's why I'm going Skyfall. Evan.
I had the pleasure of seeing Jurassic Park in the theaters at the SLC in Florida State. We were able to program the movie, and I am so glad I got to see this in a theater versus just on the TV. Being able to actually experience what everyone else got to experience in the 90s, and it wasn't in 3D, it was in 2D, which is even better. It's something that, like, when you think about the time and when it came out, and also Spielberg really rising to what you could argue is the peak of his career, everything is monumental. And I think it would be really interesting for a Spielberg film to win. And obviously this isn't the final round, but like to get pushed forward and potentially having what you could argue is the best blockbuster director of all time, potentially getting a shot to win, I think would be really interesting. So I'm going to go Jurassic Park for that reason. No shots at Skyfall. I know you guys love the movie for really good reasons, but it's Jurassic Park for me.
All right. And Max?
It doesn't really matter, but Jurassic Park.
All right. So we now have our 2 semifinals.
Oh, God, I'm not ready.
Our first semifinal.
As stressful as this is, I'm really happy the conclusions we're coming to, because I feel like we've got some pretty interesting, good encompassing movies going into these final categories.
Considering Disney owns basically, I think the percentage is like 45% of the $1 billion films. There's only one Disney film, and in final four, which I think's interesting. So, all right, the first semi-final. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King versus Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Hogue, I need you to make a pick of...
It's gonna be Last Jedi, just because, it has to be, but take it with the grain of salt that it can be. I understand that if I had seen these films, which I will soon, I promise life and everybody around, this isn't as easy as a decision that I would think this would be, like only having really seen Last Jedi. But if my only argument for this would be is just taking the idea of what you thought something could be, whether it's a franchise or just kind of property, and doing more with it and kind of planting the seeds for where it is to come. I don't know if Return of the King has done that the same for its genre of filmmaking, the way that Star Wars has going forward with sci-fi and fantasy.
All right. Max, where are you landing on this one?
This is tough. Sorry, I don't mean to create dead air. I'm just processing. Well, at least with Final Jeopardy, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. Here, there's no right answer. Look, it's been no secret throughout this how much I absolutely love The Last Jedi, but I have to go Return of the King. I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the great achievements in filmmaking in general. I think what he accomplished in New Zealand over a couple years with kind of a shockingly small budget when you think about it. He only ended up spending like $90 to $100 million per movie. And the emotion of the climax of Return of the King. I was going to say Return of the Jedi. It's not right. Return of the King. I was like melding the two movies into one. Return of the King, I have vivid memories of like sitting in that theater when I first saw it, like shaking uncontrollably to the point like my whole row was like on a 4D ride.
Nice.
It's Return of the King with the utmost respect and love to Last Jedi. Making it to the semifinals for me is nothing to sneeze at.
All right. Evan, where are you going?
I don't think we are going to see a director in a long time shake a whole fan base the way how Rian Johnson did. And I think that's really important in blockbuster filmmaking, really pushing a narrative forward and making people think a different way than how they do about blockbuster movies, not at the demise of Peter Jackson, because I think the whole idea of Lord of the Rings and what that whole series represents is really important. Especially in its case of like going past just it being a big boom movie, like actually like in the Academy and like winning Oscars and stuff. But personally speaking, and also just where I lie when it comes to franchises and the franchises that I love and follow, it's The Last Jedi for me.
All right. I will. In terms of cultural impact and in terms of, you can't even say that anymore. Over what I'm actually going to put on, over what I think is the more beloved and iconic and better made film, over what I'm going to put on. No, because that's a lie, because Last Jedi is so fucking well made. This is tough.
But there's something to that, though.
You can either end this now, or you can make me do it.
I'm going to go Last Jedi.
Okay.
I'm going Last Jedi. Last Jedi deserves it. I can't believe I just knocked out Return of the King. But
that's the thing, is like having this conversation where it's like, it's important that we talk about it like this, because Return of the King, as someone who didn't grow up with Lord of the Rings, when I watched that movie for the first time, I sobbed. Like, I sat there and just cried through the whole ending of that movie, because it is a huge journey that you go on in that movie. And when you get to the end, the payoff is so great and it's so beautiful. And it just feels like this well-made, passionately made movie that has stuck with culture for such a long time. And the Academy did actually say, no, this movie deserves its time. Like this series did so much, and this is the result we got. But on the other side, you have a really well-made Star Wars movie that none of us know how it slipped through the cracks and actually came out and shook up the genre in a way that clearly people weren't expecting, because they're still angry about it all this time later. Like, it's insane when you try to weigh them up against each other because of the different things they've done for different parts of like the science fiction fantasy stream of films.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that people might laugh and say, I don't even know how you can compare The Last Jedi, but when you think about it, what it has actually done is divided people who love this kind of genre into going, are we okay with just getting the same kind of movies over and over again? Or do we want movies like this that turn everything on its head? Like, it's a fascinating discussion to actually try and have about these two movies in particular.
Yeah.
And not to keep this category, I'll be very quick, but the fact that Return of the King managed to be in this $1 billion club without a major re-release shows that it did the impact that it's important. It'll never not be important, and so that's something not to scoff at.
At one point it was the second highest grossing film of all time. Like, that's nothing to scoff at, and I completely agree. The Star Wars: The Last Jedi makes it through to the final. Next we have,
and we just lost literally half the audience. Goodbye.
Yeah. Next we have The Dark Knight versus Jurassic Park. Evan, I'm going to start with you.
It's a dinosaur movie. Like, I was, even at 19 years old, sitting in the theater, I was still terrified of that fucking raptor scene. In the kitchen, it is one of the best directed scenes I can think of to date. You feel like you're in these kids' shoes, and Steven Spielberg does a magnificent job of actually like putting the audience there versus having them just watch it. You feel like you were there with everyone else. And again, and it's a personal thing. Nolan's directing style just throws me through a loop. So I'm gonna go with Jurassic Park.
Okay. Taylor, I'm gonna go to you.
Okay, Jurassic Park. It's funny because I didn't think Jurassic Park would be something I would choose so easily going into this. But the more I really think about it, the more that I go, it's one of the movies, because I saw a lot of movies as a kid, and it's one of those ones that just really stuck with me. The way that you are really kind of put into this world of wonder, but then it's also really still terrifying the way that they're able to, the way that I still have that reaction to a lot of those scenes. And I just think that it's such a well-made movie, and it's tough because The Dark Knight did something almost, I would say almost as much or even as much culturally, just in a different time. It really came in and just kind of knocked everyone off their feet, and for good reason. And it's tough to kind of compare them because, you know, I think they both deserve to be in this finals spot.
Yes.
Like, it's tough, but I am going to go with Jurassic Park.
Max, I'm going to move to you.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Jurassic Park. I think few movies over the last 30 years have stood the test of time the way Jurassic Park has. It's just a marvel of storytelling, of adventure, of really tightly knit suspense sequences, of what could be achieved with computer-generated imagery in the early 90s. It has great characters, one of the best film scores ever written, as far as I'm concerned. We could be looking at a Durnoff.
Yeah, we are.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have a Durnoff in the finals.
Hogue, where are you going?
We very much have had these brackets set up where people's minds have been changed and people have been willing to switch their vote. This one is weirdly a bit simple for me, I'd go with The Dark Knight. And Star Wars was not my franchise as a kid. Jurassic Park and Back to the Future were my franchises as a kid. They're what I grew up on. They're what inspired me to make films. Christopher Nolan made the next logical step for what I needed in terms of inspiration, in terms of taking, like, Jurassic Park is a perfect object. This is, I forget what film or Zootopia I described it earlier. Jurassic Park truly is kind of the perfect incarnation of what it is. And I said it's the lightning bolt that, energized that franchise to be as important, as impactful as it is. Christopher Nolan changed filmmaking in a way that we are still feeling the ramifications of that. The dark and gritty sort of thing has been a passing fad that not even Christopher Nolan has succumbed to with his films. Jurassic Park changed filmmaking, don't get me wrong, but Spielberg was doing Spielberg. Nolan took Batman, redefined what that meant, while also redefining what it meant to think about characters, to think about storytelling, to think about psychology when it comes to populist filmmaking. Jurassic Park is an adventure ride. It is fun. It is a blast. It does exactly what it needs to do, whereas The Dark Knight is pushing you a bit past that and wants you to really reflect on kind of what you're talking about, while also still delivering that same experience of, you get the chases, you get the explosions, you get the gadgets, you get the characters, you get the costumes, and you get Heath Ledger as the Joker. A performance that I don't think has yet to be matched in filmmaking since then. That is, I think The Dark Knight really pushed forward and reflected on what came before it in a way that blockbuster filmmaking has really yet to repeat itself. And I think it is the shoulders standing on the shoulders of what Spielberg created, but has created something far beyond it in a way that I still don't think we've seen the furthest ramifications of. That's my argument for The Dark Knight.
I would have voted for Dark Knight just because I do think it is a slightly better film. So I would have voted for Dark Knight, but Jurassic Park moves on through. So we are down to our final Star Wars The Last Jedi versus Jurassic Park.
Jacob, do you want to start?
Yeah, actually, no, this is actually fairly easy for me. I'm going to go Last Jedi.
I was going to say, why don't you just kick it off?
Yeah, this is actually fairly easy, so I'm going to go Last Jedi. Let's move on to...
Evan, what are you thinking?
Okay. It's going to be Jurassic Park for me. I said this earlier. I think it'd be really cool to have Steven Spielberg kind of where he most excels, which is making fantastic blockbuster movies for all of our eyes to devour and enjoy. And the John Williams score is irreplaceable. As much as I love the Last Jedi score, is fantastic. The Jurassic Park score is just so iconic. And the Last Jedi is great. The Last Jedi slander, I will not stand. It's not here with me in my heart. But Jurassic Park is just something that holds so true to my heart. I think that right.
All right. Max.
It is Jurassic Park for me. I love The Last Jedi. I keep saying that. It's very true. It's a beautiful film, subversive in all the right ways, amazing character work, beautiful action sequences, shirtless Adam Driver, which is like an A+ moment. But as I was saying before, Jurassic Park has truly stood the test of time and arguably influenced, if not all, a good majority of CGI-heavy films that have come out since then. It has a sense of wonder that few films achieve. When Sam Neill first turns and sees the dinosaurs, it gives me chills every time. It's Jurassic Park.
All right, Taylor.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna make you
this one is tough for me, just because it's hard to look at these and pick one, because Jurassic Park meant a lot to my childhood, and I still think that it's a fantastic film with all the time that's gone by. The Last Jedi has meant a lot to me in my recent years since it came out, and has really affected my life in a lot of ways since then, and has been more of an impact in a smaller amount of time, and maybe not always in the best ways, but it's really kind of done something for me with the way that I view movies that has really kind of shaken things up for me. The way that it took the franchise that meant the most to me as a kid. It's, you know, it's one of the first things I remember watching other than Titanic as a kid. And it took that franchise that I never really questioned all that much because I loved it, even though I did have problems with some of the prequel films. This movie took all those opinions and went, what if we took this story and just completely went somewhere that we've never really tried to go before, but we still have all those sci-fi fantasy elements that you love, and we expand on those. And it's hard for me to vote against it, but it's hard for me to go, this is the best billion-dollar movie of all time. Like, even though I might personally believe that a lot of the time, like, do you know what I mean? It's hard for me to say this super recent movie is the best billion-dollar movie of all time. But I mean, like, there's a reason it's the centerpiece in our studio. Like, there's a reason that, like, I just have to. Like, I have to go.
You really have dual identities.
I do. Look at you guys. Look at. I got both of them.
All right.
But it's only because I don't have a Last Jedi shirt. So
hard. You have the deciding vote.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
You like Tremors, so you have to like Jurassic Park.
It's Last Jedi. Everything about Jurassic Park is true. It really set the template for what blockbusters could be and really reverberated from here on out. Last Jedi made me reconsider what storytelling could mean. It made me, Jurassic Park was one of my franchises as a kid, and Last Jedi made me a Star Wars fan in a way I didn't know I could be. And whether that's credit to Rian Johnson or to the franchise that lived before him, before he took it over, it showed me that there is a purpose to be daring. There's a purpose to storytelling, and there is a purpose to, you know, taking what you know and going past it. Jurassic Park is perfect. Last Jedi created a new category for perfect to be. And I get it. This is subjective in a way that we can't like quantify. But if we're talking about what I think a billion-dollar movie should be emblematic of, Last Jedi being kind of the perfect culmination of a franchise film that fits every kind of category that its franchise should do, what Disney should do, what like Blockbuster should do, while also being original in its own way, having deeper themes that you can think of on, and making us talk about it in a way that even the film that shall not be named and all these other films that we're talking about, the conversations about Last Jedi will continue for years, and there will be so much to learn from it. I think it's important for this film to be the #1 blockbuster franchise in our very important and influential corner of podcasting. I'm going to go with Last Jedi.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Last Jedi wins. I didn't expect that.
I didn't think that either.
Burn this place to the ground because we just did that.
I didn't expect that. I genuinely
I didn't either. I
that.
literally thought Titanic was going to kick it out. Like, I really actually did. So,
I thought Dark Knight had it in the bag.
I mean, I'm not going to complain because long live the King Rian Johnson. Like, that's what this whole channel is basically about at this point. But
wow. I'm a little shocked by that. Guys. Last Jedi won.
What do you think of these results?
Oh boy!
Actually, I don't know if I want to know what you guys think of
I
these
mean,
results.
it goes to show such a controversial film that has so many differing opinions with 5 different people, all with different perspectives on what it meant. It still rose to the top. That's something to be said. That's, there's something there.
Yeah, guys.
Wow.
I want to thank my wonderful panel for turning up. Evan, let everyone know where the good people can find you online.
The one thing I have to think about before I head out is I wonder what would have happened if Jacob voted for Black Panther instead of Toy Story 3. Are we in a different position than we are right now?
It would have been different. I tell you that.
That's it. That's kind of all I have to say. It was a really good time. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think Jurassic Park barely deserved a little more. Not to shit on The Last Jedi because that movie's incredible, but that's where I'm at. But it was a good time. Something to know about me. I'm a very big blockbuster movie guy. I think they do a really good job of like pushing through and pushing boundaries. And I think they take what they can from indie films and push them forward. It's it's like learn what you can and then make it bigger. I don't know. It's the reason why I love movies so much is the big boom boom pow pow movies. But with that, you guys can find me here at Abnegraph Live on Twitter. I tweet things, and you guys can see me where all at from there. I'm on Family Game Night in about 15 minutes over at the PJ Campbell Network. So make sure you guys check that out. We have Robert. No, that's a lie. We have James White, Frank Janish, Aaron Turner on there tonight, along with the Smiths and Chris Clark. So make sure you guys check that out. We're playing Uno and Pictionary. So I'll see y'all later.
All right. See you, Evan. Hogue, where can the good people find you online?
This was a great one. This was a lot tougher than I thought it would be, and I had a great time. I'm very excited with the conversations we had. Find me at Hogue_filmmaker both on Twitter and Instagram. Check out my Vimeo page under Patrick Hogue, where you can see all my short films. I'm a filmmaker, as my name suggests, and check out my latest short film, So, spelled SEW, on Crypt TV, their YouTube channel. They're a big aggregate for like horror, and we're so close to 200,000 views, and the reception has been great. And I just want to cross that threshold so I can brag about it to people who won't understand what I'm talking about, but it'll just kind of be a victory for me. Past that, this was a blast, guys. This was a real pleasure.
All right, thanks. Yeah. See ya. And Max, where can people find you?
Wait, hold on. We have to. This was his debut on any of our shows.
Actually, it was. Yes.
So I feel like that's an important thing to acknowledge. Did you survive? Did you have a good time? Are you okay?
I am okay. I did survive.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Look, although I didn't vote for The Last Jedi, I'm very happy with it winning. It was one of my 4 or 5 favorites of the 46 films in the $1 Billion Club. I've been championing the film since it came out. In fact, as soon as I got out of first seeing it, I wrote on Twitter and Facebook, well, The Last Jedi is an overwhelming achievement, and I stand by that. I think it's a great representation of what a $1 billion movie can be. But yeah, this was fun. It didn't get that heated. There were some tough choices, but no fireworks, just healthy discussion, I think.
It was good. It was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Max. And you will be joining us next weekend. So when we do our next Tupperware of Destiny.
Yes, our next random casting Tupperware of Destiny will be Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, and Max will be joining us along back with PJ Campbell, who will be back on the channel. So it's going to be really fun and exciting, and I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. Thank you for joining us, Max. Where can the good people find you online?
You can follow me on Twitter at Cinemaxwell. Instagram is at Cinemaxwell Inc. A new show I just launched with the aforementioned PJ Campbell had its first episode this past Thursday. It's called Front Center Mezzanine, where we discuss theater and Broadway-related topics. You can check out the PJ Campbell Network YouTube to watch the first episode. The viewership's been really strong so far. And we're doing that every other Thursday. So our next episode will be June 4th, and we'll be announcing our pretty awesome guest on Monday.
Okay. Well, we will see you next Saturday, Max. Thank you so much again for joining us. See you later.
Bye.
And guys, you can check us all out at the following links down in the description below. However, before we get there, I do want to shout out a few people who have donated to this stream. So we had Ferris donated $5 saying, he donated $10 saying these are fucking tough, man. I don't know how you guys did it. So thank you so much for the donation. And of course, Maxwell donated $25. Thank you so much, Max. You are the best. Thank you.
Gosh.
Guys, next week, we had just said we will be doing we'll be doing a fantasy draft for the Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, the Tupperware of Destiny is going to be back, and we're going to see what the fates have for us with our Scooby-Doo movies that we will be doing. We're going to have a fun twist where we have to decide if we want it to be live action or animation before we draw our names.
Yep.
It's going to be a fun time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get.
It's going to be interesting.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this stream. We have a lot of fun doing this with you guys, especially when you chime in the comments with your picks, because it makes things very interesting for us. We have so much fun doing this. I'm really glad so many of you could join us today. If you guys want to find us on social media, all our links will be down in the description below. Make sure to check all of us out. We have our Letterboxd links down there if you want to see what movies we've been watching lately, since we can't go to any theaters at the moment. So that's a very interesting mix we've got going on. Is there anything else we need to do before we head off?
That's everything.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.